Ready? Aim!
There's too many!
Anyone see my mammoth?
Stubby!
I should have checked that before doing it. I've had to change my headset. My other one is broken, hence the reason I sound different. And then, of course, it doesn't detect the new audio, so yeah, I forgot. Anyway, hello! Back to where I was before. How's everyone doing? I hope everyone is doing well on this lovely Monday. It is a late Tourney ground. I would say it's because I've been hard at work doing loads of good stuff, but no, I've just been chatting shit. Obviously, it's the bank holiday today. I'm also joined by a load of random people in chat today. I am doing this on the main Discord channel in TTS Game 2. So loads of random people are going to be joining us at random moments, probably asking questions or wanting to get to the bottom of things. So I really, really, really hope that people, enjoy this. I have no idea how this is going to go. This is probably a massive mistake. Never leave anything up to the public. Yeah, I will regret my decisions in my life, and I will turn on their ability to actually listen/talk, and that will be a terrible decision for everyone involved. So here goes nothing. We have got a random selection of people in here today. There are a grand total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people. 9 people in chat with me today, including, and I am just going to go down the list randomly here. I know Ross is still around. How you doing, Ross?
Yep. How you doing?
I'm alright. Had a shave.
Good.
That's how I'm doing.
Yeah, I noticed. You look quite dapper.
I just look a little bit more like a child, less like a caveman. We've also got actually a semi-important person in the chat. We've got cryptography. If you don't know who cryptography
hell
is,
no.
he runs the Cryptic Paintworks channel, which is a kind of blog series that he's trying to get started up, and he's doing a lot of stuff on season 3. Is the hope, and it's a nice little blog. So how you doing, bud?
Hey, not too bad.
Good. We've also got, I know that he's around. I'll make sure I pronounce his name properly for those of you who don't know this person. He is a frequenter on certain channels on Discord. His name is Reek. Reek, it rhymes with leak.
Hello!
From the Danish community. How you doing, bud?
I'm from Denmark!
I'm glad you've said that. Do you want to say hi to your mum?
Nah, I don't think she's watching.
Okay.
Actually, we better make sure. Hi, Mom! There we go. Okay.
Right. Second of all, why isn't your mum watching? Right.
Hold up. She's calling. Gotta take this.
Fantastic. So, we've also got the Joker, the Black Joker, I should say, who's from Poland.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Just played a TTS.
And I just lost the game to Marsara. He's Masara, and he's good player.
No, not at all. Don't say things like that on Tourney Ground. That's not the place. We don't talk about how good players.
Average to decent player, maybe.
That's kind. Not what we do here on Tourney Ground. I mean,
No,
shit
Carlo
or-
would be different.
It's a kindness-free zone.
Right. So that's it. And we've also got in chat a bunch of people who are muted, who I assume will pop up at various different times. Those people, and of course, because you turn it on streamers, it doesn't say the people's full name. Be goddamn annoying. So we've got Keijo. For those of you who don't know Keijo, Isaac. He's a resident player in the UK now after traversing himself from the depths of Sweden. I say that he's never actually lived in Sweden, I don't think, but I like to pretend that he only came here recently from Sweden. And he's a Lannister player though, so we don't talk to him because he's a Lannister player. Who else have we got? We've also got Oh, Keijo's unmuted, which means he's probably going to say something. Or not, as the case might be. He can't, okay, he's just playing with me now. What a dickhead. It's alright, I know Keijo in real life. He's a dickhead there too. Who else have we got? We've got Marky Mark. If people don't know Marky Mark is a player from the UK. You'll never guess his real name. It's Philip. No, his name's Mark. Obviously, Mark is another good player from the UK. Some people like to call him a good player. Other people like to say he plays Night's Watch. They're not the same thing. Oh god, I'll take that one in the back. We got it. Next up, we've got Jescabar, otherwise known as Courtney, on the main Discord channel. God, this is absolutely chaotic as hell. How you doing? No, not here. Oh well.
Me?
Yeah, you.
No, yeah, my name's Jake.
Jake.
Yeah, doing good. Trying to figure out Renly in the new patch.
You have a very radio voice, by the way.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I could listen to you while falling asleep. Oh no, sorry, I could fall asleep. Or I do fall asleep listening to you. That's it. Yeah, no.
Oh.
No, that's harsh. No. Lovely to have you on, Jake, as well. We've also got other random people who are joining as the kind of thing progresses. We've got Crones has just joined. I won't put him forward. But Cronesaholic played lots of games with him recently. Brandon, relatively good friends with him. Be meeting him hopefully later on this year in the US, which I'm really looking forward to. We've also got Fickle Dice God, who I have literally no idea his full information and his full kind of like thing going on. I just know he's a frequenter on the Discords, relatively new member to the Discord kind of community. It's good to see. And we've also got another guy who begins with P, and I can't see the rest of his name because streamer mode, dickhead. Actually, I can turn it off. Hey, his name's Privmat. We also have the Rat Cook, who's joined and muted, another guy from Denmark, and Swole Chungus, Jescabar. That was Jescabar. I got it wrong the first time. See if he's unmuted or not. How you doing, Jescabar? He might say hello. He might choose to stay quiet. He's staying quiet. Okay, fair enough. Right. So there are random people in the chat today, and random people might throw questions at me. And that's absolutely fine. I'm not going to have a long episode today. I don't hope for it to be very long. I want to do other things with my life. On that note, my partner's away for the week. She's just swanned off on holiday. So I'm home alone, which means I don't have to care. Which also means I have to feed myself. Oh, these are all the worst things in the world, aren't they? Anyway, so let's talk about the game. Let's talk about where we're at in season 3. Let's not talk about Ross. Sorry, Ross.
No. Okay. That's fine.
So we see the rankings as they are, and to nobody's surprise whatsoever, Night's Watch are number 1. Yes, Night's Watch are now 33 points ahead of Lannister. I don't expect that to stay the same. I don't think Night's Watch are that much better than the other factions. But Night's Watch are proving to be clear and ahead winners. It is not particularly close. Obviously, that's not great. Night's Watch being as high as they are at 42 is great. And for those people that complained about last season being unbalanced, was it this bad? I don't think it was. So yeah, aren't we glad that season 3 dropped? Anyway, if we ignore Night's Watch and we look at kind of like the rest of the field, we've got Lannisters and Free Folk who are very much kind of commonly floating around that 2nd and 3rd tier. I do think that Lannisters and Free Folk are relatively evenly matched right now. I personally prefer Free Folk. I think Free Folk are very strong. But like Lannisters and Free Folk are having a great time up in 2nd place, kind of joint there. Starks did have a period where they were up there fighting for 2nd place as well and had a good weekend, but ultimately they've had a bit of a drop in performance in the last 50. See a -13 change. So they had a nice peak. People like them, but they're actually trending downwards now. I don't expect Starks to come and make a resurgence. I do expect Starks to have a good time though. I really do think Starks are one of the better factions from what I'm calling like a mid-tier. That mid-tier includes people like neutrals. I do think neutrals have got some nice stuff now going on. The good neutral builds that were kind of playable before the patch, even though they weren't a faction, are now actually playable, and the faction is okay. I think that neutrals are in a fine place. Martells have had a bit of a recovery. I'm glad to see they have had the recovery. Martells were all the way down at the bottom for a while, and that was really sad. But Martells are on a bit of a, you can see here, bit of a recovery. With significant +7 in the last 50. So that's looking pretty good. Greyjoys have had an uptick. I say in the last 50. It's basically been in the last 10 to 12. They've had a nice little run. I think people are kind of cracking on with some Greyjoy builds that might actually be pretty good into the stuff that's not very good in the game. But I don't expect Greyjoys are going to have a good time. Their archetypes are melee based now. And as we know, melee-based archetypes are not good, because melee is so easy to counter in this game. So yeah, we expect to see. Let's open it. We expect to see some kind of like holding with Greyjoys. I wouldn't see them rise. And then we move into kind of shit tier stuff. Boltons aren't good, right? Boltons at -18 looks really good. Boltons are on a, generally speaking, downward trend, or they're at least maintaining. Boltons are going to go lower than this. I expect to see, them at least hitting -20, and that kind of being their plateau, maybe kind of circling that area. I really don't think Boltons are that good. We'll talk about that later on. We've then also got Baratheon, who've had an absolute shit pan in the last 50, but also weren't doing great before that. Baratheons are not looking strong. Again, we'll talk about some of the Baratheon builds that might be okay, might not be okay. And finally, we move into Targaryen. Now, -20 is not so bad. It's equivalent to where the other kind of guys at the bottom are. But as you can see here, yes, it's a +4. But Targs are just plateaued, man. They're just not making significant gains. They're doing okay. Targs are sorting their commanders out. I think you're going to see some commanders in Targs rise. I think other commanders are going to pull them down. I really think that you're seeing a spreading commander from Targ here that's seeing the changes in ELO. I do not expect Targs to come up significantly higher. What's actually super interesting is if we actually look into command. So I'm going to look into Targ commanders first of all, and we see Drogo kind of propping the faction as the highest commander still. Other dragons also actually not doing too badly. Interesting, the Shave Pate on a positive win rate. I don't think the Shave Pate's very good. Yeah, Shave Pate's on an upward trend. At a +4.5 as well net. Maybe he's better than he was. I mean, Brazen Beasts are better, so Shave Pate's probably better. I don't think the Shave Pate's very good. What else have we got? We've also got in Targs. Yeah, we've got a load of stuff that's barely like 1 or 2 games, so barely commentable. Remember, guys, if something's got the same ELO as its faction, it means it's basically not played a game since the patch. So if we check out Ramsay here, it might not even be able to load the data because it's that long ago. Wow. Oops. Ramsay Snow literally hasn't played a game at -20.76, 761, sorry, -20.7. So we can see Ramsay and Dario here just not played. Barristan not dropping, but getting significant buffs. I don't think anyone cares. Not doing great, but he's not doing terribly. Marcelin is the big loser. I think people are playing Marcelin lists and probably losing with Marcelin, but Marcelin should be doing better than that. You can see his last 50. It's been a litany of losses. I think this is odd. I personally think Marcelin can make good builds. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, data says I'm super surprised that Marcelin is at the bottom. Yeah, agreed.
Is there?
Yeah.
Sorry, Mickey. Is there anything like you would attribute that to? Because it seems really strange to me that he would be on that kind of a trend, given how strong historically that commander's been.
Yeah. So I think that commander played around with activations a little bit, and I think that the pass tokens may have hindered him slightly, depending on how he's playing the activation game and where he's setting his lists. there's also a good chance that he's just being played at low activations right now, and thus not having nearly as much value. Not sure. Not really sure. If we look at the units, however, specifically units, we can see Brazen Beasts are doing okay. They're not strong unit by any stretch, but they are a strong 5-point infantry unit for Targs, and 5-point infantry units are good. Like 5-point infantry units, if you've got a nice little stable thing that does its job, that's good in any game because it just is a basic unit that you can take at basically the cheapest points cost that you consider activations at tend to in most factions outside of NCUs. So yeah, like Brazen Beasts at 5 is good. I think it's a good change. It's obviously a nice little buff to them, but overall it's not pulling the faction up. And actually what we do see is we see a lot of the other stuff just not really pulling its weight. Freedmen especially at down at minus 21 points close to, shows that Freedmen as a kind of like infantry unit or kind of inclusion in the list is not proving successful. What can attribute to the inclusion of Freedmen being less successful? Actually, ultimately, Varys inclusions. Varys inclusions makes Freedmen a little worse. The auto hits onto Freedmen, which they're almost definitely not going to be saving. The extra panic test just from crowns, just like wanting to take crowns. He's now got a valuable target for Freedmen panic tests, and it's a valuable Varys token spend, although I personally would. But Varys just being more prevalent, I think, is worse into Targaryen, is better into Targaryen, because Targaryen want to take swords because they all want to take swords, and their armor save on general is shit. So I think to answer your question, why is Marzelan dropping? I think the much bigger thing is Targs aren't doing well because I think Varys is good into Targs. Because Varys is good into Targs, I think that just makes Targs drop. And then Marzelan in particular, probably because dragons are less effective overall in the game now. I don't know. That I don't really have much more insight than that. But if someone's going to be running Freedmen, it's going to be Marzelan. Now, are Freedmen bad because Marzelan is losing with them in his lists? Or are Freedmen bad, meaning that Marzelan loses games because he's got them in his list? See what I'm going with that? Like, I don't know if it's cause and effect either way.
Mm-hmm. And this early, we're still in territory where it could be small n, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay.
So, that's the first one. Yeah, that's the first thing I would say. See what people in chat are saying. Sorry about that. I've played 2 absolutely awful games with Marzelan in the TTS tournament. It's okay, Tigerhawk. It's the cool thing. Data says BAME Tigerhawk. Well, actually, the truth is that if a commander's popular, it's probably been played a lot more than 2 times in a week or 2 times in 2 weeks. And that means that your contribution, although negative, is generally speaking relatively minor. So that's not a big deal. Like, most individuals aren't changing the stats by significant enough on their own, by a significant margin on their own. Yeah, it's sad, but ultimately it doesn't matter.
Could we?
Go on.
Sorry,
Go
could
on.
we touch back on dragons because they received a point decrease, and so they're more versatile across other commanders, right?
Not this patch, I don't think. That was
No?
Yeah,
That's the previous patch.
the previous patch. Yeah, like
Previous.
yeah, the previous patch saw dragons come down in a point, which does mean they're more playable in other factions and other commanders, which, as you can see, leads to negative win rates. Like, all of the dragons have been, like, Targs in general have been losing more than they've been winning. Dragons have not been particularly good solutions to that problem. What is interesting is that Screamers are good. The Sundering made Screamers good. I think that is important to note. I think Screamers for a long time have been pretty garbage. Screamers now might be a viable unit for Targaryen and an interesting cavalry unit choice at 6. Jorah at 4 is still winning games. More than he is losing. Take with that what you will. I don't have any good analysis for you there. It's probably because he's still a 4-point activation, and 4-point activations are good. Go figure. Yeah, I don't really have much more to say on Jorah. I don't really know. He's winning more than he's losing. Let's have a look at their NCUs. Barristan Selmy seeing a lot of play. Barristan Selmy seeing a lot of play, and or at least not seeing a lot of play, I should say, but it's having a win rate that's positive. Does play into what I believe is correct, which is, and we should probably talk about the big bad. Golden Company swordsmen are everywhere.
I thought you were going to say Varys.
No, yeah, I mean, obviously Varys is a thing, but like Golden Company swordsmen are everywhere. And because Golden Company swordsmen are everywhere, Barristan is better. Because you can almost guarantee if you put Barristan in your list, there's a target where you can get pretty good Barristan value out of. I don't have much more on that, really. I just think that the Golden Company swordsmen alone make Barristan better. And the prevalence of Golden Company swordsmen in games and in lists makes Barristan better. Barristan was never bad. It was just he was a tempo loss, and cool thing with Golden Company swordsmen is that Golden Company swordsmen are a tempo losing piece, so you typically get more value out of Barristan.
Would you say Barristan's better because of Jaqen going down to 4 points?
I don't think the Jaqen changes significantly how I feel about Barristan. However, it might be. I don't really feel the control builds from Targaryen have ever been good enough and have been viable enough to run, and they've never really proved to be very good. So I don't think the change to Jaqen for this control as style with Barristan makes a significant difference. That doesn't mean to say he's bad. I just don't think it makes a big difference.
That you're looking at units in the context of what is it that you want them to do, and for certain units, the more you take of that, and the more you capitalize on that ability, the more value you're going to get out of it. And personally, I just don't think that Barristan is necessarily that. Barristan will shut down the one big threat that you really need and want to shut down, but that's very different from taking advantage of two other things like traps. Hidden traps can have a lot of economies of scale, where the more you use them and the more you take advantage of them, the more value you get out of them. But Barristan is more of a one-trick pony. A good one-trick pony, but a one-trick pony nonetheless.
Another way to look at that is from the point of view of opportunity cost. There's only so many spaces you have for NCUs. So is the second Barristan really better than the first, whatever you're not taking?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with Hand of the King in Starks. I don't like duplicating that influence with Jaqen either. It's not at all on my list of things to look at personally.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's just a case of not being a great. It doesn't make a big difference, and because it doesn't make a big difference, you don't really care, I think. As seen on Sunday Slaughter, the other thing that we should probably talk about is the control style NCUs in the kind of Zaro, Hizdar actually is probably better for it. Hizdar, Hayat Pri style mill lists, they aren't performing. Like Hayat Pri is not doing particularly well. I don't think that those kind of I'm going to mill your deck style lists make a significant difference to the game, and I don't think they're very. That's not to say that they don't have a place and they're fun to play. Of course, they can be fun to play, but they're not particularly good archetypes, and they're certainly not helping Targaryens win games. So yeah, Targs are looking pretty goddamn sad, which is sad because Targs were playable, and at the moment there's a lot of things that seem to be shitting on Targs. I personally believe Targs will come back up. I think Targs have options to build lists that are interesting and good. It's not looking good for them though this patch, and if it's not looking good for Targs this patch, Targs only really had, their Mother of Dragons into season 2021, with Mother Dragons Drogo being like at least kind of being able to face Offal. Like, Targs are not in a good spot. They don't look like they're going to be in a good spot. It might be a pretty sad patch for a Targ player.
One thing I'd like to actually ask you about, because I tried it after, is bringing Priot so you can bring Walder and guarantee a Walder activation. What do you think about that?
I think that has never been good. Unfortunately, like, Walder's doing okay. But Walder's doing okay in part because neutrals are doing better. And Walder will probably see play in neutrals. I'm not a big Walder fan. I don't think Walder is really good. Like, maybe Walder with Pirate Pri is fine. Finally, it is his time to shine. You've not convinced me. To data in chat, just Walder is terrible.
The one piece of advice I've had from Mickey, this was back in season 1 with Martel's, was if you want to run a 4 NCU Martel list, then bring Walder.
And why is that?
I can't honestly remember off the top of my head.
Because if you run a 4 NCU list, you're going to have to pass with NCUs anyway.
Yeah.
Red Standard. The threat of the pass mechanic works against high activation targs. I think Marsland wants a high activation list. Yeah, probably red. Probably. Probably people.
So if we look,
yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, so if we're looking at Targaryens and the context that they are currently in, do we think that Targaryens are going to be doing worse than Boltons? The other dog-shite tiered faction.
I don't think Targs and Boltons are... I don't think Targs and Boltons themselves are that comparable in the problems they face. I think Targ builds will come up, and Targ commanders will come up to be okay. And Targs will prove that they may have at least one, maybe two, but they might have one competitive list. I can imagine them having two. Because Mother of Dragons is actually not doing terribly. And Drogo, as we see, is also the top-rated commander for them. And if you told me that Mother Dragons and Drogo were going to do well in any patch, I think anybody in their right mind would go, yeah, I can see why. Or, like, that makes sense. So, yeah. Drogo and Mother of Dragons may be two competitive builds for Targs. I can see Targs having competitive builds.
And why isn't Queen of Marine good in Targs? Because she basically got the same cards as Martel's dispatch.
Because Targs can't do anything with what she gives. Like, what does she actually do? She goes, let's go and, she's got a corpse pile one, I forget the name now.
Remorseless Examples.
Remorseless Examples, thank you. She's got Remorseless Examples, she's got Counterplot, she's got Targaryen Supremacy. And she's got some other piece of shit. Subjugation. Oh god. So basically the problem is Targ Supremacy is okay. it's not good. Like the change to Targ supremacy makes it really shit. Like, after an enemy completes an attack, they suffer a panic test. If it's engaged with Dany, it gets to be the +1, -1 for each rank. I'm gonna shoot Dany. She's got intimidating presence. She's probably in a unit with horrific visage, because that's how you're gonna make the best benefit of it. In which case, I'm just gonna fucking shoot you. I'm not engaged with you. I don't give a shit. This is just take 1 panic test. This is a bad card. Targ supremacy, shit. I joke a little bit.
Tell us how you really feel, man.
I do. I just don't think it's a very good card now, and it sucks because it was
You're right.
fine.
I mean, you're right, but
It was fine. It's now just bad. Counterplot is worse. Like, so in case people don't know, Counterplot got nerfed, right? I'm gonna have to explain this maybe a little bit. I don't know. I don't know how people feel. Do people believe? And I'll poll chat, and I'm also going to poll the people listening to me in this channel, of which there's actually shit tons. So there's way more than there were before. Yeses or nos? Do you believe that Counterplot got worse? I don't need any explanation. Just yes or nos.
yes, with an asterisk.
Yes with an asterisk.
Yes and
Obviously,
no.
yes.
Yes and no. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and
Yes.
I'm gonna
and
say no.
Yes and no.
No.
No. Mark says no.
Of course, Mikey would say that.
Of course he'd say it.
I'd say yes.
Yeah, yes from Fickle, thank you.
I have reasons.
You have reasons. Yeah, so on the most part, Counterplot got worse because the reroll for controlling crowns is something you could get with Baelish, which meant the fail case of your Counterplot was I spend my once per game, I control crowns, which means that has value in itself, of course, for Lannister, but also there's now a 1 in 9 chance I can get rid of the card that you're likely wanting to play at the top of the round. Remember, the strongest moment of the round is always the very first activation. The very first activation of the round is the strongest thing you can ever do, because you have the full tactics board and every unit is unactivated. So it is always the strongest thing you can do. The next strongest thing you can ever do is at the end of the round as the last activation, because your opponent's got nothing left to respond to it. So those are the 2 strongest things basically in any point. And if you're playing a Counterplot list, you're having to, if we're talking about a Baelish once per game, Baelishing once per game for the last turn of a round feels really bad. But it's kind of worth it if you get Counterplot. Baelishing once per game at the start of a round feels really good because you now don't need to take the zone. So that has some nice little value for you. Also, so the fail state, right? The fail state used to be a 1 in 9. Now, if you just take 1 zone with Baelish, the fail state's 1 in 6. Your odds on that initial opening play, the strongest moment your opponent has in the turn, or in the round, I should say, you've actually decreased your odds a small amount, like is it 1/12 or something like that you've decreased your odds by. Now, not even that, it's relatively small. It's not a big difference, but it is actually enough. Yes, you went from 11% actually up to a 1 in 6, which is 17%, right?
17,
so it's about 6% change. That's not great. Then you have the double control, and it's like, I can now stop any card. But actually, so here's the weird thing. If you've got Counterplot in your hand, you've kind of telegraphed it by taking the 2 zones a little bit. Yeah, you kind of want to take those 2 zones anyway, so that's fine. But like, I'm already, as a player who's playing against you, when it was a 1 in 9 chance that you failed, I already kind of assumed you'd counterplot it and that you'd pass the counterplot if you did. So I was already kind of playing the 1 in 9 you're gonna fail isn't gonna happen. And now I know it's not going to happen, and you as the Lannister player knows it's not going to happen, so it's less feels bad. But it doesn't actually change the way I play the game, like, at all. Like, I don't care. Because I don't care, I think Counterplot's just worse. It's worse in the case where it's better, or where it should have been better, and it doesn't change in the case where it is better. So, like, it doesn't make a big difference. If Counterplot was just automatic all the time, it would be a very different thing. Because of that opening play, if you could just automatically say your opening play is not as good, that would be pretty damn good. But it's not, and you have to spend the 1 per game to get that 1 in 6. So, like, it's just not that amazing. That's not to say it's bad. It's not bad, but it isn't better. So, yeah. Counterplot isn't great. Right? It's good, but I'd rather just have a better card. Most of the time, I don't really care about stopping 1 card from my opponent. And more importantly, Counterplot takes out Swift Reposition. And Swift Reposition's a really goddamn good card when you're running infantry. Yeah. That hurts. That Counterplot being replaced, like replacing a very good card in your deck, hurts.
Well, it's kind of like harkens back to when Field Control was the best card in the Targ deck. Any commander that removed it, you didn't want to play. Not so much anymore now. So like, yeah, it's the opportunity cost there is pretty high to get a worse counterplot.
You're replacing a good card with a card that's like so okay, but like not better, not de facto just a better card. You then get Subjugation of Power. Subjugation of Power, the new one, is okay. It's not great. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, cool. And then you end up, what have you got left? We've got Remorse's Examples, which is not a good card. Never has been a particularly. Yeah, so her deck is like Remorse's Examples, which is like fine if Remorse's Examples is your worst card, that's fine. But like when Remorse's Examples exist and you also have Targ Supremacy, like and you also have Subjugation of Power, which you don't scale well enough with enough panic in the rest of the list. You don't have any other panic tools really outside of Queen of Marine herself, and like maybe it's Drogon, but like the package just doesn't do anything.
I think that's the issue. She tries to do what Lannisters do without all the support tools like the Cersei getting back to hear me roar subjugations. The token play, this play, that play. Lannisters can do it so much better, and she's just a poor copy with more restrictions.
Yep. If you actually wanted to make like Dany be much better, like, and it would make it interesting. I don't know if it's too strong. You make the rightful heir. You can replace the zone's effect with search your tactics deck or discard pile for 1 of Daenerys' commander cards. And then you can recycle counterplots, and you're taking crowns which buffs it up. That's interesting. That is a control style commander with a deck that's not control really, it's all about movement and doing some random shit. That's a control style commander in a non-control faction that might now actually have some value. And then I think you could run this kind of weird mill deck with Dany just being like, I'm going to mill a bunch of your cards, and the ones you do play, I'm just going to counterplot, so fuck you. Yeah, but if she doesn't have that, she's not that great, unfortunately. That's my take on Queen of Marine. So you asked why Queen of Marine is bad. There you go. And yeah, new data says new subjugation is far worse in Targs than Lannisters. Lannisters have a number of things which trigger off a failed panic, so another panic card at least plays into that. Exactly.
It's a pervasive problem with every faction's, token. We care about panic commander. If you don't have the support tools to make it good, it does not really play. This is just another example of that.
Yeah. God, that was a very dominating performance of Targs, wasn't it? I expect Targs to come up. And I mean, yeah, this says it all, doesn't it? Let's talk about the thing we haven't spoken about yet. And I know Isaac Kjo did say, what about Boltons? Do I expect them to be worse than Boltons? The simple answer is no. I think Boltons are pretty bad. Let's look at just Boltons, eh? There's a couple of things in Boltons that have become very prevalent. Yeah, commanders otherwise. Ramsay is doing okay, Steelshanks isn't, and Roose really isn't. None of their combat units have won more games than they've lost. None of them. Now that's, again, not quite true because this isn't quite ELO, but like, they're not doing well. Let's have a look at their NCUs. Roose is about the only combat NCU there that's doing okay. The rest aren't. Again, that's a function of the list somewhat. Attachments. Can you believe this? The 1 point Dreadfort Captain and the 1 point Bolton Flayer are the best performing attachments for Boltons. They are better than Damon Dance for me, who is free or 1 point. Theon, who is free when coming with Ramsay. Grunt, who is 1 point or free. Skinner, who is 1 point or free. Ben Bones, who is 1 point or free. And Sour Allen, who is 1 point or free. 2 1 point attachments are outperforming in wins attachments which cost 0.
I don't understand how that's possible. I just don't get it. Is it play rate?
Play rate.
Just strictly play rate? Okay.
These aren't being picked more than these. These are being picked more. Specifically, we see Sour Allen and Ben Bones in nearly every Bolton list. And they're just not winning games.
I think the main problem with Bolton is that they're not really threatening or pressing your opponent, and they're doing nothing. Yeah. And this is what loses the games.
Yeah. They don't present a threat. And I personally, I mean, I don't know if I don't actually know. Hang on, I'd have to check myself. And I'm not a good litmus test for this. But yeah, I've found that I've been playing a little bit of Boltons. I played Roose and Ramsay, and I played another Roose. I've not lost with them, but like, that's not really saying anything. They are not good. I'll load up my Ramsay list, my Bolton, and my Steelshank list. I haven't played the Steel one yet. But the Ramsay list, Sour Allen in Dreadfort Archers, Ben Bones in Bastard Girls, because I believe that that is a 6 point unit that's good, and I believe that that is a 7 point unit that's good. And that leaves you with not many points left, because you've got 13 points already picked. You're going to have a unit of Cutthroats. You will probably have 1 unit of Cutthroats, I'd have thought. Right? And we'll talk about actually why you wouldn't. But there's going to be a 5 point unit slot gone as well. And ideally, you're going to have at least another combat unit, so we'll call it 5 for now. That's probably going to be upgraded or changed, whatever. So you've got a 6, 7, 13, and 2 5s, 23. That means you have 3 NCUs coming in at 12. That's 35 points. You have, from your decision making, from your list choice, you have to pick 5 points. You can run another unit, taking you to 8. You'll notice this is what this archetype is. Another unit taking you to 8 activations. You can run Jane Pool at 5 points, taking you with 4 points left for some upgrades. Or you go, shit, I haven't got any cavalry units, because if you're running a 7 activation list and you haven't got a cavalry, that's not a great start. So you spend 3 points upgrading one of your Cutthroats or 5 point infantry units to your Blade Men, and then you've got 2 points left, which is either an NCU or an upgrade for your commander unit, most likely. Because your Flayed Men can't have attachments, because you don't have access to attachments that are going cavalry. So you end up with an archetype that looks a little bit like this. So you have the 8 activation Dreadfort Archers, Bolton Bastard Girls with the 3 NCU at 4 and the 3 5-point units, one with Ramsay Reekin. You end up with this archetype, which is the Roos archetype with Roos Blackguard, the old classic combo. Bastard Girls, Ben Bones, Dreadfort Archers, Sour Allen, Flayed Men, Tybalt, Walder, Jane Poole. That could be any 2 4-point NCUs. And the 5. You end up with this archetype, which is the Steelshank Walton archetype, which is the Steelshanks in Bolton's in Blackguard. You've got your Bastard Girls, Ben Bones, your Sour Allen Bastard Girls, Flayed Men with your 3 4-pointers. So you end up with something like this, where you've kind of gotten rid of the Dreadfort Archers, or you've upgraded that 5-point or 6-point commander unit to something else. All of this, like, I genuinely believe that if you're not running that list, then you've either taken a point out of this list somewhere, which could have been the Bastard Girls. Maybe you dropped the Bastard Girls to another 5-point unit, and those 2 free points that you've got freed up from the Bastard Girls are now 2 attachments in these units. Fundamentally, you're running something like this, something like this, something like this. I believe those are your 3 list builds. I don't think this one, the one I've got with Steelshanks Walton here, is that good. So I think this is a good list build, and it's a 7 activation list build with nothing really clever and special. Everything's just okay, good. And this list build, which is an 8 activation only infantry list, basically. Yes, it has some range unit options as well, but no cavalry. I don't even think this is that good. Like, this is okay. This is okay. You could run this with Roos and run Ramsay attachment as well, or run Ramsay NCU. But, like, I don't think this is that good. And I don't think your NCUs are that great. Tybalt's okay. Roos is okay. Walder's okay. Like, Walder's not great. Jane is okay.
How much do you think the FAQ on Tybalt affected his okayness? Because as printed, he seemed cracked because he could activate off the tactics board, right?
Yeah.
Like he could actually. So that seemed a little bit, but now that that's been fixed, do you think that like was a significant hit?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we don't talk about, or certainly haven't talked about, is we haven't talked about the FAQs, right? We haven't talked about some of the FAQs, and I think actually at this point I'm going to do a bit of a public service announcement. If you haven't read the latest FAQs, do check them out. Now, I know most of the people in the chat here probably already have, but actually, a lot of the FAQs have changed since the FAQ actually came out, not long ago. Yeah. So it's just something worth looking at. So yeah, the FAQ for Tybalt was that essentially Tybalt no longer can activate his ability and activate in the round. So if he's on the tactics board, it doesn't matter how he got there, which I'm just going to throw it out there. That FAQ has wider implications, but I don't know if we'll see it matter. But basically, if he's on the tactics board, he can't activate. He can, however, still use his ability. He can't activate, can use his ability. If he's not on the tactics board, he can use his ability and he can activate. Essentially, we don't know it yet because, yet again, we don't actually have anything saying it. But we don't know if you can only target unclaimed zones. it is highly likely that that's what they mean, but we don't know that.
Well, it's either that or they just assume that we all are smart enough to realize you can't claim a controlled zone, like if there's already an NCU on it.
Yeah.
I say smart enough in kind of a dismissive way, but yes, there's a rules problem there that needs to be probably dealt with.
Howard Hooven in the chat says, I'm looking at 5-2 lists for Boltons. I just think their best configurations are better that way. Which may be true, Howard. And if it is, then they're not a good faction. Sorry. If a faction's best build is a 5-2, then they're probably not very good. Because if you've got replacement NCUs and then replacement cards, especially if there's zonal replace cards, certain zones, you're not as pressured to use the tactics board, meaning you're also not as pressured to use the opportunity that those zone replaces give you. And you're also running an activation where you're running a 5-2 is only still at 7 activations. So rather than running like a 6-2 or a 7-2 where you're at 9, yes, you don't have to activate your NCUs till late because your activations on the tactics board will always be the last ones. Whereas as a 5-2, even if you wait with your NCUs, they're still not going to be the last things in each given round most of the time. So you're not getting the value out of the tactics board that you really want, and you're giving more value to your opponent. I was just actually talking about this before the stream, but actually the value that Starks have when running into an enemy 5-2 or like 6-2 is that Starks can get into melee combat with a unit that's already activated, that's now unable to retreat, potentially even unable, won't have anything able to charge the unit that's just charged. So you're sat there with your list unable to respond to the Stark player. And then the Stark player can do a late round Catelyn onto Crowns, play Assault Orders while in melee combat with you, and do just another big attack, take a chunk out of you. You've just taken a charge and a static attack on a unit, probably with one that the Stark player really wanted to set up. Like, if you're not dead, you're not in a good shape. And you've got to respond with something, because if you don't respond now, it's really going to be bad. You're probably dropping an activation. And if you can't respond and you drop that activation, you're now just playing a 4-2 list without a unit. You've lost the game, because your one advantage, surely, was that you had more board presence. That is your one advantage. And if your opponent kills a unit first and you can't retaliate very quickly with a kill of your own, you simply don't have the advantage of more board presence anymore. It's gone. So you're trying to buy your advantage by ensuring your board presence is better. If you can't actually take advantage of that while that is true, then your list isn't going to win a majority of its games against adequately skilled opponents and lists. And that makes Bolton's bad. Like, again, it's not saying that 5-2s are bad lists or 5-2s are the worst things you can do in Bolton, so much as 5-2 lists just can be abused if your opponent knows how to abuse them. Whether or not they do or not, or whether or not they have the tools, also comes down to the quality of lists that they're running themselves, of course. You know, if someone's running a really bad list into you, then they might not have the tools to punish you. Which is, again, something you could observe at the list picking stage, and may be part of the reason why you picked your 5-2. So that's worth considering, of course. But yeah, a long diatribe into telling you why 2NC is bad. In my opinion, anyway. I've never touched a 5-2 list of my first game, but Boltons are making me consider it because honestly 4-3 feels bad. Yeah. Yeah. Post, do you think Boltons have any hope as the community at large gets to play them? Not really. Not competitively speaking. Like, if I see a Bolton... Let's put it like this. If I see Bolton lists winning national level events, I would question a lot of things, including how good the Bolton player is, because they're clearly probably pretty fucking good. Can I go into how to abuse a 2 NCU list? Maybe. Mr. Matt, agree. Boltons don't have the aggressive pressure to capitalize on 5-2. No, I don't believe they do. How can you abuse a 5-2 list? So let's assume you're both running 7 activation, which you kind of have to do. Let's assume that the 4-3 is running a zone replace effect or NCU. Now that might not be true of every faction, but it is true of lots of factions that they'll do that. Just because zone replaces are good, and if they're not running a zone replace NCU, it's usually because they've got a zone replace tactics card that they want to get value out of. Very good example here would be Starks with assault orders. Obviously Greyjoys are for everyone Wendermere, but of course they've got We Do So, and the more recent Victarion lists are running assault orders, of course. All of that side of it means that, you know, I'm not even going to go into free folk. Night's Watch don't, but they don't care. Who else have you got? That's pretty much it, right? Because everyone else has zone replaces or often uses zone control pieces. Tourney, Eldon, zone replace. Renly side stuff has zone replace cards now. Stannis side probably using Crescent actually, so zone replacing Crowns. So like it's a zone replace, and Crowns is probably not one of the zones you want to be taking on Bolton. So a 2 NCU list, like let's put it brutally honestly, a 2 NCU list typically doesn't want to take Crowns because Crowns is typically a low value zone. So that means that you're not going to be taking that zone, which means that anyone with a zone replace on Crowns gets more value. So Crescent gets more value. Johannes says that Martells often don't have a zone replace. Yeah, they don't. But like, I'm okay with like Martells are again not unhappy of taking Crowns and doing a Crown Zap on the enemy, especially if they've got Roynish Vengeance out and active, and especially if Unbowed, Unbent, and Broken is out as well. So like, it doesn't feel that bad. And then actually what you're talking about is not a late Crown Zap, because the Crown Zap might come quite early. What you're actually talking about is a late Horse, a late Swords, a late Letters, or a late Bags. All of which have good value, because you can put value from those into the next round. So, let's talk about sequencing then in a 5-2 versus a 4-3, say. If the 5-2 is going first, which is what we're assuming, then you will activate an NCU, and you will take a zone on the board. You're running Boltons, like, you don't have any zonal benefits, like, at all. You may take Crowns because it's a panic test, but, like, why aren't you just taking swords and shooting someone with a ranged unit, right? So you're probably taking swords. Let's be honest, you're probably taking swords. If you're running Boltons, it should actually probably be swords with Tybalt, because Tybalt gives you the most value from taking sword. Specifically, your opponent's most common answer is going to be taking bags to heal. If they take bags to heal, guess what? You can be like, Tybalt, I'm going to choose Crowns, so you can't take bags. And if you take bags, or don't take Crowns, I'll move to Crowns, get a free Panic Zap, which isn't awful with Boltons, and then I'll get to activate my second NCU and shoot you again. And I think about it. Maybe I do give you the shot. Maybe I don't. If I don't give you the shot, I just go, cool, I'll take Crowns. You go, okay. I'll tell you what I'll do, Jammer. I will turn those off. They're no longer annoying. I just think that your opponent now gets to answer with the way they think is best. And if it is more annoying than, like, if it's more annoying for you that they get to heal, then you just heal anyway and just admit they get a second shot. Or if you're more worried about the second shot, then you just take the crowns and crown zap them, and you just let them heal 3 or 4. And at that point, it's like, cool. And then they maybe like take horses rather than bags, because horses are a good zone. But now you've just got bags and letters. Like, don't care. Like, how do you abuse it is really hard, because like, essentially you abuse it by responding to what they do. Because eventually they will have to activate a combat unit. And if you're not already in melee, we're talking about like the key rounds here, which is when you can abuse it the most. And before the engagement starts. And if they activate a combat unit and do something, then when they activate that combat unit, and I've talked about this before, that unit has done its activation for the turn. And specifically with Boltons, there are no out of sequence attacks, no out of sequence, and no issue commands, nothing like that. They can't do anything clever. They have no movement and no attack shenanigans of any type. So once that unit has moved, it is done for the round outside of the tactics board. And if that unit has moved, it's just become a 4.5 inch by, call it 4.4 inches, about 4 inches deep, 4.5 inches across, I think, or maybe 5 inches across. Palisade. Your opponent has just put a palisade on the board. Not only is it a palisade, it's a palisade you can charge and potentially kill if you wish. You can abuse a palisade on the board by charge blocking. And they're running a predominantly infantry list. If they're running a predominantly infantry list, it's a lot easier to charge block them, because infantry doesn't have free cavalry maneuvers. If they're running predominantly infantry, it's easy. Utilize the unit they've just activated to then hold up other units, right? And I can't show you this easily and quickly, but I'll load up Tabletop Sim, because I'll show you an example of actually using Boltons against a predominantly infantry Baratheon list, which was a 4-3, so we were both running 4-3, but it's exactly the same thing that was happening because my opponent doesn't have any movement tools. Okay, so what we saw was something a little bit like this. Turn this on. Go, 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 go. Sort yourself out. There we go. Right. Of course, this is the time where Tabletop Simulator does it properly. So. Okay. Right. There we are. So, like, let's say, like I'll say, like, here. So, and this particular game was a very good example of happening. Doesn't really matter how deep. Now, this is more of a proof of concept necessarily than explaining exactly how this works. But here you go. Yeah. This is your red versus blue. Now, this, yeah, so Nathan, it's all about forcing them into bad sequencing, right? So these two units back here, this is a ranged unit. This is like a defensive melee unit, and this is like a hybrid, right? For this is a Bolton list actually, and this is unit Flayed Men. This is my classic Roos list, and my opponent's playing a full infantry list, right? And what this kind of does, right, is my opponent goes, well, you know, I'll just kill this unit. This is like a really defensive unit. And if they charge their infantry unit in, they can't align 100%, right? They have to align 50. If they align 50, this unit's got nowhere to go. This unit can march 10, but like, it's still in my front of arc. Maybe this is a bit further back. I can go something like there, does the job. So you're still way easily in my front arc, right? And more importantly, you don't fit in the gap. You can make it so you don't fit in the gap. A bit more careful. But it's thoroughly possible to do this. And now, do all this. Hilarious. You don't fit. So this unit that's over here, who's in the flank of this unit, can't do anything. And it's a melee infantry unit, remember. This unit's piling in here. Maybe it's coming over here now because it's going to maneuver over here instead. And this unit is going to have to turn around and deal with the cavalry, or just ignore the cavalry entirely and just walk over to the palisade. If you ignore this cavalry entirely, then I'm just going to go, well, we'll smash you in the flank, or alternatively, I'm going to come over here. I'll actually sit here if need be, and it's like, well, I can charge you with this unit. No, you can't, I'm charge blocking. So I'll then just charge you here if need be. I don't know what you're going to do. I can respond. Anyway, point in case, what you end up creating is you end up creating a litany of positional questions that this potentially even 5 melee combat unit or infantry heavy list has like difficulties dealing with. Yeah? And I'm holding the game up. My opponent is at best able to bring 2 units to bear of their 5, and I've got all 4 doing something. Every single one of these. This one's in melee, this one's in melee, this one's shooting, it could even be positioned like here, that would do the job. This one's absolutely shooting whenever I want. This one is providing cover for this. What does your opponent do? This is like round 2, maybe round 3. Now they're going to have to be like, oh, well, I'm going to have to bring this unit over here, and this unit will have to like maybe pivot better, and then I'll move this unit to here, and then this unit destroys the palisade, and now I probably lost this unit because the trade's bad, and now we're here, and there's maybe some shifting here, and maybe finally this unit's kind of pulling back to like, after some movement, after you've committed here, you can't charge me in the flank anymore, so I'm happy to just kind of pull this unit to here. You know, I'll sit here if need be, because that still means you can only charge this unit with 1. And this unit still does nothing. And at any point in this game, one of your combat units is doing nothing. So yes, you're running a 5-2, but actually you're just running a 4-2 because this is a piece of garbage. Let's just throw it away. It's not done anything. It won't do anything because I can just control it. That's why 4-2, 5-2 type lists are easy to abuse. Because you're not really playing with 5 combat units. Not all the time. Not into a 4-3. Now you can play more open. You could play, like, if the palisade's here, you could play on this side of the board. You know, maybe you do a 2-3 split, right? Here and here. I don't know. There's my defensive unit again. Here's my cavalry, if need be. There. I'll have my support unit. And I'll win this flank. There you go. So far, at the moment, the only charges possible is that one. And even if these pushed up, you might be able to get a flank charge onto this unit. This unit's not doing anything for a while. How do you do this one? Do this one just to here, right? Actually, it doesn't even have to be there. What you do is you already position like this. And you just shift back a little bit, putting it into the front, and it means that unit can't ever go out there as well. Make sure that you move that unit. That unit's just peppering this unit flank with support shots, and that unit still can't do anything and is still in the front of this. Anyway, concept still works. Can a highly mobile 5-2 work, or bad for the same reasons? The problem with a highly mobile 5-2 is, like, if this is an incredibly mobile 5-2, you're still only a 7 activation list. So you've got to kind of play what you're good at. And it probably means only one of your pieces is in a good threat range. But yes, it can work a little better. You're thinking Targs. I already know that because I know that you play a lot of Targs, Nathan. And all of a sudden, like, you can be here, and all these threat ranges engage. This unit can, of course, move a lot further. You can start engaging, like, here. And then, yes, you can engage here, you can engage here, but you're still, still not bringing a lot to bear on the main force. It's better for you, but it's not great. Yeah, someone also says it's apples to oranges about paying with solos, because solos can do a lot more. Yeah, so solos can do a lot more because a solo fits there, and a solo can fit into some of these nicer little gaps. And also solos are typically very quick. They have a little bit more value. That's just like a very quick rundown of it, though. Like, I'm sure there's more, and I'm very aware the frames are dropping like mad. Quality on the video might not be the best. Does anyone have any questions from chat? Because I've been looking at people in the actual chat, and no one from the actual Discord. Anyone in Discord got any questions? Things they want to ask?
Not really. I mean, I'm personally shocked that Boltons are as bad as they are because they didn't look that grim. First started to see what was in the faction, but here we are, nonetheless.
The problem is, what have they actually got that's good? That's a genuine question, right? Cutthroats are fine, but cutthroats can't be your... Cutthroats can be your bread and butter, but they can't just run an army of cutthroats. Maybe you can. Maybe you just run 5 cutthroats with an assortment of different attachments and you just YOLO on people. I don't think that's good. I don't think running 5 cutthroats is good, but maybe it is. Dreadfort archers are fine. They are equivalent in a lot of ways to Stark bowmen. Are Stark bowmen good?
Well, they're a fair bit better than Stark bowmen, but they are not enough better that it's like, holy shit. They're not Lightbringers.
Are they better?
I mean, they have an ability that isn't, well,
Stark bowmen have an ability that's not like absolute trash tier now. Ruthless
Yeah, that is
Volley's fine and very good if you're shooting into like the Rooses and the Flayed Men of the world. But like, do you really want to be shooting into units that have got morale 6? Just because you're doing an automatic wound and a panic check on those units? Like, let's put it like this. Would you shoot into your Stark Sworn swords in melee combat with your Stark bowmen?
Yes, I would because, well, okay, actually no, I wouldn't because I would never play Stark Bowman. But to me, when I see rerolls hitting on 3s, right, that looks like it's got a lot higher upside than shooting into a melee with Stark Bowman. What Boltons are missing to really make that good, I guess, is something with Stubborn Tenacity, unless it's somewhere in their list and I've just never noticed it.
It isn't.
Some way to add extra auto wounds as a result of passing morale tests when firing melee.
The actual key, and this is why I run Jane Poole, and let's go back to the list with the Roos. You shoot into Roos's combat because you get the spread fear and the intimidating presence, and also you put Jane Poole onto Roos's unit, giving him 4 morale. And at 4 morale, maybe 5 if there's a corpse pile if you're lucky enough to have one, but at 4 morale, the Roos, Bolton, Blackguard are very unlikely to fail a panic test, and they're also very likely to be able to proc a spread fear from the Dreadfort Archer shot. And I do agree at that moment, you are dealing with a nice little combo. But that's your 6-point Dreadfort Archers supporting your 6-point Roos, Bolton, Blackguard unit.
Right. With an NCU in the mix, maybe to mitigate the fail state. Yeah. So, yeah, I see your point.
It's a lot of resources, which is why, if I'm explaining the board situation where you can block off a lot of NCUs and a lot of units from your opponent, that kind of board state's really good because it puts a lot of pressure on your opponent because you only have to engage one enemy unit and all of a sudden you're getting value out of I can afford to spend a 6-point melee infantry unit, a 6-point support ranged unit, and a 5-point NCU on that combat because there aren't other combats happening. And that's the thing, is you're playing the list with the intention of only having that one thing to invest resources into, because you have effective ways, and this is actually where we talk about like point effectiveness. You can bring a lot of resources to bear in that one place. Your opponent probably actually has more resources, but if you can't bring any of them to bear in one place at one time, you can beat him. And that's what Boltons can kind of do.
Right. And like, so it's the like the combat unit spread, like as we're talking, I'm taking another close look at it, and yeah, no, I'm seeing your point now. I overestimated how good they really could be just looking at their stat lines, right? Like they've got Spearmen are another 5-pointer with set for charge, but they've got a 7-up morale, which is rough for a unit that wants to be like getting charged, right?
They are a 4-point unit. Sorry, they're a 5-point unit like Cutthroats who have set for charge and form armor instead of being Cutthroats.
So like they're statted a little bit wrong for the role usually that you want for the charge catching
Yeah.
You know,
if they were morale
so.
6, Bolton Spearmen would be a little bit easier on the palette to take, I think, and I think most of the time you're not going to want more than one of them really in a list. So
and their deck is kind of shit actually now that I take a close look at it, because again you've got Remorseless Examples in there and that card sucks.
So Remorseless Examples isn't good. Harsh Punishments is hilarious because Harsh Punishments is really good with Bolton Bastard Girls, of all people. Because you just give Bolton Bastard Girls Sundering and always roll 6 dice.
Yeah.
That's fine. They're very unlikely to fail the panic test of any of the units. They're most unlikely. It's also okay if you've got a nearly dead unit of Flayed Men and you just need to hit really hard right now, because you can play at the start of turn rather than on the attack, gain your 6 dice with Sundering, and just hit your opponent, and that has value. Our Blades of Sharp is fine. I don't care. Sadistic Games is trash. Like, it's trash.
Yeah, it's the suffers from any card that has a similar wording where your opponent gets to choose things means they're going to choose whatever's best for them. So it sort of sucks. It's the browbeat problem if you're a Magic player.
The Cruel Methods in your deck is good, except that you can only restore wounds to infantry units. But it's worse than Ramsey's Cruel Methods. It's actually a downgrade. Can't heal your Flayed Men with this card.
Did not notice that. Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah. Flayed Man Has No Secrets is okay, but remember, a Flayed Man Has No Secrets basically got nerfed this patch. Because it doesn't work on your NCUs once per games, which, in case people don't know, you can't shut down Corrin, Tywin, Tycho, Kevin's, Arias, any of those things. Wendemir's, they don't count as using the resource if you use a Flayed Man Has No Secrets on it. So
you do. I mean, you stop it for the turn, but no, it's terrible.
Yeah, it's a lot worse. Of course, there's more orders in the game, so that Flayed Man Has No Secrets has a bit more value there. But like, yeah, it's just a worse card. And Fear Keeps a Man Alive is like okay, except what's a big problem with a Fear Keeps a Man Alive in the Bolton deck?
Overlapping triggers.
Overlapping triggers for a start, and what's actually the maximum number of panic wounds you can ever do with Boltons? Does anybody know?
Isn't just do they have any? They don't have any way to add wounds beyond Intimidating Presence, do they?
They do have 1.
Okay, so is it 5?
It is indeed 5. They have the best combo you can do, which, oh look, I'll just load up the Roost list. It's a Spread Fear, which is +1 wound, into an Intimidating Presence, which is +2 wounds. If you're against Free Folk or Conscripts Night's Watch, you get a +3. So the best you can actually do is a 5 wound swing. The best. Now 5 wounds is actually really good. Like, it's actually really good.
That's a lot. I mean, let's be clear. That is a ton, because it's actually not a 5 wound swing. It's a 10 wound swing, because they took 5 and you get 5. Yeah. That's a lot.
But a Fear Keeps a Man Alive is most of the time going to be like a heal 2 or heal 3.
Right.
And most of the time that just doesn't matter. Not significantly. It's not a big, impactful thing that you really care a huge amount about. And it's not a bad card. I'm not sitting here saying it's bad. It's just not really that good. You're not really going to want to desperately keep this in your hand for when your opponent tries to fail a morale check. Data also says it's actually 6 because the special corpse pile adds 1. Yes, technically the special corpse pile adds 1. But if you're getting the special corpse pile out with Remorse as examples, you should be winning that game regardless of how good a Fear Keeps Man Alive is. Like, you've got to play Remorse examples for another piece of terrain that fucks your opponent over. Should still be winning that game. Like, yeah, Richard says it in chat. Good things don't fail panic tests that much. Yeah. All good lists don't care if they're failing panic tests that much. The other way around, right? They just don't care. So, yeah. This base deck isn't good. And the commander cards are not great. They're not bad, but they're not great. Like Ramsey's minus skin collection is like fine, I just don't care. Opportunist is good. Good card. It's good on start of round type stuff. Those are early plays. And Spores in the Flesh is just fueled by Slaughter. It's not great. It comes with Horrific Visage only. And yeah, whatever. Whisper Threat's fine. Seeing their flaws, okay, yeah, decent. Dreadful Secrets, fine, but it's an overlapping trigger. Again, like just lots of over stuff you want to go for. Steel Shank, Price of Fear is good. Like, it is good. But it's hard because it's a failed panic test again. Rush of Aggression is good. Taunt is okay. Like, Steel Shanks is probably one of the most interesting commanders because he brings a load of interesting stuff. But like, I'm just not interested in his builds because I just don't think they work. So, and this actually leads into I was going to say a question. Someone said, is the best way to best way to play Boltons is just to play them as neutrals and proxy the Dreadfort units as neutrals. Yes. Yeah, because in case you don't know, this is a list I was playing that was... I will point this out to players, and I will say this, I genuinely mean this. This is a Ramsey list I was playing before the patch. Now, new patch wiped all the lists. When I say I was playing this Ramsey list before the patch, I mean this. Okay, let's go back to... Here you go, Ramsey Snow versus Marcelin. Use this one. I play against Evil Morty's Marcelin 7 activation list, or 8 activation. And I played Ramsey Snow Golden Company Swordsman with Theon. Blade Men, Golden Company Crossbowmen, Cutthroats, Baelish, Roos, Varys. Now, this list, if you now put it in the builder, you'll notice it costs 39 points. This is a list I was playing at the last game, and I thought it was a neutral list. It wasn't that good, but I thought it was competitive enough to play against players like Evil Morty.
And not only is it the pointless, there's also a unit in that list that's much better. Much better than it was.
Yeah. Like a lot better.
Yeah.
Richard says, that's a pretty good list. Yeah, it is, isn't it? I absolutely love it. And what? Evil Morty's 1850, right? In terms of rough average skill. So I felt comfortable to run this list into, admittedly he was running Targs at the time, but like, I felt comfortable to run this player this list into a player who's 100, 150 points lower, right? Now, this was back when neutrals weren't good, remember? Neutrals have had a glow up. Their tactics deck got better, just straight up got better. Golden Company Swordsman, let's not comment about what happened to them. This list gets rid of Roos and puts in Tycho. Whoops. Bang. You keep Roos. Add an attachment into your Golden Company Crossbowman if you really want Bronn. Don't run Bronn in this list, it's bad. Don't run Bronn, actually. Bronn's bad. Housebolt and Flayed Men. You could add an attachment there if you want. Your Housebolt and Cutthroats, you can add an attachment in there if you want. Point is, you got a point left over. Like, this list was already playable. It became a point better, and it actually became, like, 2 points better if you consider the Golden Company buff. Like, this is a completely playable list. it runs 3 units of Boltons because the Golden Company become Bolton with Ramsay, and a unit of crossbowmen. So this list is a Bolton list, but it also gets Peter and Varys, 2 of the best NCUs in the game, and access
V2 right now,
the
actually.
Golden Company Swordsman. Like, I'm not going to say this list is going to turn you around and win your games, right? I'm not going to say this is going to be like, this is going to completely change the way you play the game. But if you just take what Bolton is running, and you consider that they could just do this instead, this one. Like, why play Boltons? And that sounds really sad. I don't want to sit here and tell people that don't play Boltons. Play Boltons. They are actually... I've enjoyed playing them. They are a little bit fun to play, and they give you some interesting conundrums. Plus, hitting things with cutthroats is always just fun. I enjoy hitting people with cutthroats. But if I'm being honest, as a competitive list build, I think neutrals do it better. And when I say they do it better, they do the same lists better.
Yeah, the neutral deck is just better than the Bolton deck, and you're not relying as much on failed panic tests to carry you, which you can't control as much as you might want in any faction. I mean, I don't know. I think maybe Lannisters are the only ones where you can say, like, yeah, I can pretty reliably make people fail panic tests, but then they're still going to have to contend with cards that cause them to pass and so on and so forth. This is just more reliable.
Yeah. I mean, the glow up to adaptive methods makes adaptive methods really good. Right? Adaptive methods was already a very good card. It's now amazing. Worth the Risk now has a heal 2 associated with it. What? That's amazing! It's amazing! It was already a really good card. It's now amazing.
Oh, hey, yeah. Speaking of cards that auto pass panic tests.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, you know, Meticulous Planning didn't get a change, but like, yeah, cool. It's useful still. It's a throwaway card, or you go get a commander card, whatever. By the way, you're running Ramsay, so you get the better version of Cruel Methods because you can heal your flayed men. You can also heal Golden Company Swordsmen, who have a 3+, 3+, -1 defensive profile. Yeah, by the way, don't use the aggressive version of this profile or adaptive style most of the time. The aggressive style is how you lose games. The defensive style is how you win games, personally. I think that the defensive style is very good. The aggressive style is good. In context, the aggressive style makes your 7-point melee-only infantry equivalent to Lance Cavalry. Alternatively, you can pay for Lance Cavalry at 8 that come with a free maneuver. I can't turn off Lance. I can shut down adaptive style. I get a free cav move for 1 more point. Yeah, you can shut down adaptive style with Barristan, with a Flamen Has No Secrets, any.
Oh, you're talking about countering the order. Okay, yeah. No, like because you can make Lance Cav lose Lance, so you make them lose all abilities, but that's less common. Okay, yep.
Yeah. Any prediction on will they lift the neutral ban from Boltons next year in the balance patch and say some nonsense how it was their intention the whole time? I mean, probably post, but also probably not. It is the designers for this game, and the designers for this game make interesting decisions. Let's leave it at that. Remember, that Night's Watch weren't doing too bad in the last patch, and they made some interesting decisions. Now see this being the balance of the game.
For what it's worth, I hope they don't. I hope they don't lift that restriction. I hope they just buff Boltons a little bit, fix their deck some, and let that continue. I think that's like an interesting bit of faction identity, and if you change it, all you're doing is giving neutrals 2 decks. Not as big of a fan.
Yeah.
Speaking of interesting, what do you think is the most interesting matchup?
I don't know. Like, I don't really think about matchups at the moment.
Can I get you something to say?
Sorry, we had like 7 answers there at the same time. Go on. So someone said Night's Watch. That was Marky Mark.
I was gonna say, I think your answer is gonna be mirror matches, right?
I will always say mirror matches. I think mirror matches are always the most interesting.
Mhm.
What's the best one?
The best mirror. I mean, my favorite mirror is just my favorite faction being played against each other because I like to see how good people are with the faction. So I'd say the Free Folk mirror, because I love the Free Folk mirror, and yeah, I mean I've played enough Free Folk mirrors in my time, and I've lost one. Yeah, I think I've lost one Free Folk mirror since I started playing the game. So yeah, I love the Free Folk mirror. I really do.
I would love to see 2 highly competitive players try out Greyjoy against each other. Try to make the best of it. That could be interesting.
I think the Greyjoy mirror match might be really interesting, mainly because I think the Greyjoy mirror match, it might actually throw all of the things that we know about skill and ability in this game out of the fucking window, and it might just become an absolute slap fest.
Yeah.
I've got 2 units. I've got 2 units of Silence Men, or like Silence Men and Golden Company maybe. Yeah, and I've got 2 of the same kind of thing. Let's slap each other. I bet you've got a Drowned Men supporting you. Yeah, I have. I bet you've got a Drowned Men too. Yeah, I have. What's your archetype running?
Mirror match.
I'm running Baylor. Oh, are you? I've heard he's pretty good. Yeah, I notice he's in your list too. Yeah, he's pretty good. Like, I just don't think that the mirror match, it would be interesting to see. I actually don't think it would be that interesting overall.
Fire and Blood, Mickey.
Fire and Blood with...
In Fire and Blood.
Just rubbing his hands.
Who charged first? I did. Ha! Well, you made a mistake because now I've healed. And now I get to slap you with my healing. But I got my... I mean, come on. That game mode is... Well, that game is just who got pillage first. Isn't it? Which is probably why the Greyjoy mirror sucks, because Greyjoy at the moment is like, did I get pillage? Yes or no? Answer is no. Sad face. Greyjoy suck.
Yeah, you know that is true, but I still have this weird like fascination with trying to figure out how the new thing work. I'm not going to for a while because I have enough to do with Starks. But
I just have enough to do, like as in like, you know, take the washing out.
Well, I mean,
bring the washing in.
There's that too. There's all kinds of other stuff I could do with my time, but no, like when I see new Eric commander, I think, okay, like they fucked everything else up, but that is an interesting design for that commander. I see the other things that kind of generate pillage without having to attack, and I think, oh, okay, well, maybe there's reasons to play these now. But the deck got worse enough that I just don't see the point, you know?
So look, this to me is like what actually might be a good... I'm not saying this is a great Greyjoy list from Mikkel, but he's thrown together a Baelor in Golden Company Swordsman, Asher and Carl in Silence Men, Warsworn in Silence Men, and a Drowned Men with Wendy, Varys, and Roderick. And this is just a slap 'em in the face list.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything else than slap 'em in the face and don't die. Like, just don't think it's a good list. Like, that's not to say that Mikkel's a bad player. Mikkel's not a bad player, but it's not a good list.
Average to decent player.
Average to decent. I mean, like keeping in mind that what's the average elo? 1500.
1500, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, everyone's listening, take it with a grain of salt when Mickey says they're okay because they're better than okay by a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Mikkel is one of the best players in the world, right?
Yeah.
But like, my point being is he's one of the best players in the world, and
this is what the list still looks like.
He's not trying to be negative towards Mikkel at all, but he's one of the best players in the world, and he's running a list that just says slapface and has no real nuance to it. Like,
yeah,
like there's nothing clever about this other than slapface. Now that this is a one-off game, he's not running this a tournament or anything, and I don't know how good Resistus 1996 is. I'm not going to comment on that, but like, Mikkel's played 2
No,
games
I think
of Greyjoys since the patch. Or maybe
yeah, I
more.
think the point is well made. The point is well made. It's like there's a lot changed. A lot of us that were playing plenty of Greyjoys last season stopped or just paid attention to something else for a bit because they were not the changes we were hoping for.
This is a bit more nuanced, but Euron Harlow Reapers doesn't feel good still. Bronn Golden Company Crossbone. Like, you know your faction is bad. Like, and I mean this, you know your faction is bad if this 8-point unit is a good spend of your... You know what I mean?
I feel called out because I mentioned this 8-point spend before the stream started.
Let's break down why it's not very good.
I mean, the answer is because it costs 8 points and doesn't have a cavalry maneuver stapled to it, right?
It has Sentinel, which is like a cavalry maneuver. Why is this not actually very good? Anybody know? It feels like it should be, right? It feels like it should be. But in case people don't know, oh my tabs, I've actually lost track of which one.
Because
Genuinely, I mean this, the answer for you. Bronn just isn't... Like, if you have a point left over, most people say, I'll add Bronn into a list. Right? Bronn, for nearly every faction in the game, is not the best 1 point you can spend. And that's actually always been true. Last patch, Bronn was quite heavily negative. Now we could argue why that is. But like, 1 point Lannister attachment, Tyrion. There are a couple of 2 point attachments for Greyjoy's doing well. Okay? We've got a Winterfell Guardian, 1 point attachment for Stark. Meryn Trant is doing okay. I don't believe that for any...
No, he's been played like for a game or two,
Yeah.
won those games and never played again.
Screamer Codes,
That's what happened.
Or Jorah Mormont, fine. Awful Yarwick, fine for 1 point. Asher, 1 point attachment, fine. If you're running Asher already, obviously it makes running Bronn a little better for you. But Crannogman Wardens and Starks, Thornwatch Sentinels, what else we got?
Glory Seeker.
Yeah, Glory Seekers up there as well. Like,
the thing I always come back to whenever I try to find out how I don't like Bronn is that you're surrendering the effect of bags to attack. The effect of bags is usually quite good. So you're paying points to maybe do something.
Yeah.
Maybe. That's usually not very good.
To be
when
fair,
you can pay points to do something. For sure.
Fair, in the list we're talking about, in Golden Company Crossbowman with Bronn, your opportunity to shoot is a lot higher because you've got Sentinel to maneuver and shoot. Right, and I know you don't maneuver and shoot, but if you're taking bags to shoot, then your opponent is either already taken swords or is about to take swords.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Howard says he's awesome in Lannister Crossbowman. He is Howard, but do you know who else is a better attachment in Lannister Crossbowman? Called Kevin
Tyrion.
Lannister Commander.
But if one Kevin is good,
is the +1 morale, +1 save. That is why I actually use Bronn more so than a shot.
Yes.
But I literally shot off bags so few times. I'm happy to take the +1 armor, +1 morale.
So, if you're taking bags for +1 armor and +1 morale, okay? When are you taking bags?
to heal my units, and it's a nice byproduct. It's not the end game. It's a nice plus.
Sure. So when are you healing your units, and when is Bronn getting attacked?
When is what? Sorry.
When is Bronn getting attacked, or when are you healing your units?
Mid game.
So after the unit's already
Swords.
been tried to be killed. In which case, why is your opponent not taking bags to cleansing, condition tokens and things like this, and then throwing the kitchen sink at your Golden Company crossbowmen to kill them?
To an extent, yes. To an extent, no. But if we're taking the game and ignoring things like barriers, supremacy, hidden traps, they're things that do really well. That the armor save and a morale test helps massively with.
It does. They do.
But plus to morale test for Golden Company units specifically doesn't really do that much because they're already at good morale, and if you are failing that morale, you're taking less wounds.
Yep.
So it's kind of at its worst, really. The armor is good, but
Bronn alone.
How often do you need armor on your crossbowmen?
All I have to say is that Bronn alone, Bronn as a statistic, the last version of the game, lost more than he won. Bronn doesn't mean Bronn is bad, but I do want people, does Bronn work, and should you be running Bronn in lists? Maybe. Is there a place for Bronn? Maybe. But just putting Bronn in a list because he can be does not make the list better. Now, it is worth remembering that Free Folk exists, and Free Folk, of course, can't run Bronn, so by definition, across all games, Bronn might have a slightly lower than 50% win rate, because Free Folk exist. But, he's also not winning games for players. He's negative, and he's net losing games, which means he's not doing a lot in the Free Folk games, and he's not doing that much in the games where he's the present and the opponent doesn't have him. I get it. I just think that what it is, and I'll tell you this for free. It's easy synergy. You can just say, I've got Bronn in the list. This unit's a bit more defensive now. And you don't have to think that much about it. And plus, you don't have to do much to get value out of that, right? It's an easy use ability. Whereas if you've got a unit that's got, say, you pay 1 point for Warcry just alone, you actually do have to get value out of that by first of all having the Warcry unit in long range of the unit you want to put tokens on. You've then got to have it in a unit that's going to pass morale tests, so that probably means you want to be playing around morale buffs, like a tree and things like that. You can see where I'm going with this, right? Warcry is a very good 1 point ability, or certainly was. You actually have to play around the fact you've got Warcry a little bit. You don't have to play around the fact you have Bronn. Not really.
Your opponent kind of does. I mean, if your opponent just says just ignores the fact that you can always get extra shots on Bronn, then it can have an outsized impact on games, I guess. In the case where there's a big skill difference, but yeah, no.
And then they
You've
take
given me
Baelish,
something to think about.
They take Baelish, they take letters, and they shoot using the swords. And you go, haha, I can shoot with bags. And you go, yeah, if you shoot with bags, I'll just shoot you again with swords. So he has to block the swords and take the swords anyway for a shot, meaning that the bags doesn't do anything. Or maybe you just take the bags and do the shot. Oh god, hang on, you just put yourself in a conundrum. You take the bags and heal, it shoots you again, but now you're more defensive. Or you take the bags and do the shot, but then it shoots you again, but now you are a little bit more defensive. Or you take the swords to stop him shooting, in which case you get to shoot, but then he gets to heal up 3, so he probably gets to undo a good proportion of the damage you just did, and you're not defensive.
I think if I see Bronn in a list that I'm playing against, then I'm probably taking Baelish anyway, regardless, because he's really, really good. And I just take bags and use what I like, and you can't use bags.
So, he gains value a little bit, but yeah, he's not bad. Bronn isn't trash. I know I kind of led this whole discussion with Bronn is trash because it's better to say something inflammatory to to spark actual intellectual debate than it is to say something really like, let's talk about Bronn. Bronn's not utter garbage, complete trash. I just don't think he's as good as people think he is.
I think that okay, so lists that just throw him in there because they've got a free point are not good lists. However, it is possible to build around the fact that you threaten multiple attacks per round, depending on the faction, depending on the context, and make him be a worthwhile inclusion if the unit you're putting him in benefits from being able to make multiple attacks per round.
But why are we building a list around Bronn?
Because ranged attacks are good attacks.
They are. But we've started off with a poor decision making, I think. Because rather than adding Bronn in later on, which is what you should do, you should add Bronn in later into the list in a unit that you think he will get good value in and where you actually genuinely want him. Rather than adding Bronn in early in a list, saying, oh, I really want this unit to have Bronn. Because actually that 1 point can go a long way in supporting or buying you another unit, for example. Like, yeah, I mean, 2+2+ on GCS isn't terrible. Yeah, Data. 2+2+ Golden Company Swordsman isn't terrible. Lee says he's another tool, he's not the list. Bronn is a tool in both senses of the word. No. Like, Bronn's not bad. Bronn's not bad. It's just he's also not great either. Like, he's really not this kind of, like, game-breaking piece. Because he's simply never just won games more than he's lost. Like, genuinely, if we look at this attachment list, we can pretty much definitively say that Tyrion is better than Bronn.
Tyrion is amazing though. For 1 point,
he is. I mean, he is amazing for 1 point. But like in the last patch, when Bronn was on like -30 or -20, I think by the end of the patch, somewhere circling around there. I'd have to double check. But like, there were a lot of attachments above Bronn. So like, and Bronn is I'm not gonna say he's dropping down massively, but Bronn is trending downwards, right? I don't remember exactly what his negative is, but he is negative. Yeah, he's negative. Right. Just something to consider. I don't want this whole episode to turn into is Bronn good or not, but like, it really is something to consider whether is Bronn necessarily amazing, and I don't think he is. Like what was he again? He's like 100 and odd attachment in the game, 103rd attachment in the game. Now I know that there's a lot of shit here that needs to get sorted, and a lot of this stuff hasn't really played enough games to really hash its data out. But he's not standing out as a good attachment as in the game as a whole when you consider that he's in the bottom half already.
I think it depends on what people want from him.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing we're not really mentioned as well, if you've got Bronn in the list, it gives you more options and it gives your opponent more questions. Because of the potential to shoot from bags. Potential to. Yeah.
Does it give them significantly more options than weren't already there, though?
As a player, it gives you another option. Yeah, 100%. It gives you enough free attack.
Are you running?
If you're running.
Are you running Baelish still?
No.
So therefore, your number of options actually just gone down, then, hasn't it?
Yeah. So you can get more options. 100%. Yeah.
Because Baelish would enable that exact same thing as well. Pretty much.
And Baelish would enable you to do it 3 times with Bronn, effectively.
Yes. Whereas with Bronn, you're saying if you take swords, I'll take bags. Or if I take bags, you can take swords. Or if you can take swords, you should take bags. Like the most common response to someone taking swords is bags.
Yeah.
So like it doesn't give Bronn another shot. And the most common response But a
Because-
common response to someone taking swords is taking bags as the opponent. So like, it doesn't give Bronn another shot because if it's just a heal, you're in melee
it's
combat.
not
you're
another
gonna heal.
it's another option. So if
Yeah,
you're
it is
blocking
another
swords
option.
for no reason, if you're blocking swords on turn 1 for no reason, which does happen, you can take bags and shoot.
I mean, if someone's taking swords or blocking, I mean, people blocking
Okay,
swords
think
for
about
no reason.
the Kevin Lannister march up the board. You've got swords and crowns open.
Yeah, so
He's listed when he's on turn 1. That is the usual trick. They are left open.
yeah, so the usual thing with Kevin is, I mean, as I proved against KJ the other day, is you actually don't leave both zones open. You don't leave bags open against Kevin. You leave swords and crowns, so it doesn't bring any value to Bronn. And if you're going second, or the Lannister player's going first on round 2, which is the important thing, you're taking bags first every moment with Baelish using swords, because it means the swords and crowns is open, and you can't block both. And I know that that's the same idea with Bronn, but the simple truth of the matter is that, like, that's the Kevin machine gun list. Kevin machine gun list alone, just Kevin machine gun list alone, is not game-breakingly strong. It's his cards that give him the ability, and specifically, his order that really
But
make
just
Kevin good.
shooting off crowns, the shooting off crowns give you another option.
It does, but I
And
think
the
you're putting
options
too
which-
much weight into that option.
If you build a
With
list
Bronn.
around Bronn, then you're probably doing it wrong anyway. But if you've got 1 point left and it on a decent shooting unit, for example, I don't think it's a bad choice. I don't necessarily think it's the best choice, depending on what your faction, but I don't think it's a bad choice. And it gives you options.
Fair enough.
I never, and if you've got more options, I don't think that's a bad thing.
But the problem with Bronn is that he replaces the zone that you almost always take to use it properly. And Kevin uses the zone that almost everyone avoids. And he uses it in a good manner. So that's the difference between Bronn and Kevin.
Yep,
Bronn
definitely.
actually says to me, if you're using it for the free attack, Bronn says to me that you're raising the tempo of the game because you want wounds to be coming off the board faster, thus you're denying your opponent healing. If you want to deny your opponent healing, you should also be taking Baelish, because Baelish denies your opponent healing by taking the bags and doing whatever you want. It doesn't have to be a shot. It's an option taker, so the way of best raising the death rate of the game is by taking Baelish, so you can Baelish onto the bags to take the horses to set up charges. So, like, fundamentally, if you want to raise the tempo of the game and the death rate of the game, Bronn's not really it. While if you want to raise the longevity of the game, you want to be taking bags to heal, because you're trying to play a slow death game. And if you're trying to take bags to heal, then you don't really want to be shooting with it. And that's not to say you don't want to shoot with Bronn. Like, obviously you'll shoot with Bronn if the option's there. I just think that it's overrated. I don't think that shooting with less of a difference than people realise.
But then why should 1 point attachment make a significant difference to a game? If it did, then it's pretty broken. Excuse my language, sorry, pretty broken. Tyrion is probably the only one that I can think of that will make a significant difference to the game as a 1 point attachment. And even then be questionable whether it's significant enough to be significant.
I think attachment should make it significant.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
In fact, if you look at the top rated attachments, Tyrion Lannister, who has 2 orders, which are both impactful. Drown Prophets with Resilience, impactful. Baelor, Captain of the Night Flare. I actually don't even know what he brings. Captain of the Night Flare, Baelor. Boldness and Courage and something else? Shit.
To the
Unyielding.
last, I think.
He brings Unyielding. 1 point attachment as well, actually. I forgot his 1 point. Maybe.
Yeah, he got dropped.
Not bad for...
That's good.
Maybe okay in Bowman. which is why he's winning games. Winterfell Guardian, 1 point attachment with
Meryn Trant, come on.
Yeah, very true.
Dauntless
Get out of here.
Dauntless and Stubborn Tenacity, which is like fine. Meryn Trant for like, I'll be honest with you, right? Let's be super honest, people. Why do we think Meryn Trant's actually good or seeing play?
Because he's singing in Honor Guard so much.
Yes. Now,
I'm gonna go. Are we gonna go towards that 5 activation list?
No. What's the thing that we kind of know about Meryn Trant? And this is something to point out to people.
Sorry, what was that?
What's something that may or may not be true about Meryn Trant? And we don't actually know, and it's a problem because we don't actually know how you're supposed to play this, but we think we do. Is I bet you Meryn Trant is probably being played. He could be being played in Golden Company Swordsman, which actually does sound a bit interesting, right? However,
Does it?
a little bit. It sounds is a little bit interesting. It doesn't mean it's good. It just sounds interesting. He's
Definitely
probably
Honor Guard, yeah.
He's probably playing the Honor Guard. And what's something that we know about this combo, or we believe about this combo?
It doesn't
He's
work.
trash.
It doesn't
Well, we're
work.
not totally clear on whether or not
Timing's
the timing
wrong.
works.
Timing's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. You put the tokens in at the same time you're supposed to have declared Lannister oppression, and the tokens aren't there when you declare it, so you can't use them.
But we don't know that for sure.
But we don't know.
So
for
people
sure.
are playing this as if it works and
Yes.
are winning with it.
Yes.
Could
Probably.
be a thing.
Honor Guard positive then, because if
okay.
Meryn Trant's positive, is our Honor Guard positive or that negative? They can't be.
I hope they're not. I bet you they are.
One thing about Meryn Trant is that he wants the crown, and the good commander in Lannister. What does he want?
They're not. They're at -14. Thank fuck.
Yeah.
No, I bet you.
Also crown.
I bet
He wants the crown, yeah.
Bet you any money you like they're being played with Golden Company Swordsman. Meryn Trant's
So-
being played with Golden Company Swordsman.
Actually, I was looking at the list for Lannister commanders and noticed Tyrion being third place.
Yeah.
I think he's really, really good.
Second place now.
At second place now, even better.
I'm really.
But
glad-
I'm not seeing anyone playing Tyrion in
Because
the
there's no
tournaments.
risk.
I'm not seeing any tournament winners playing Tyrion. What does the tournament Tyrion list look like?
It's actually Roose Bolton technically is second. I
Oh,
should say,
Bolton, yeah.
on the
But very close, very close.
Yeah.
That's within 1 point.
But in faction commanders, Tyrion is the second.
And can Tyrion play second fiddle to Kevin? Like, can he be a number 2
You can
list?
probably run a Kevin list and a Tyrion list, and Tyrion can do funny things with knights or crossbowmen. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
The problem is it's not significantly different to what Kevin offers. So you're probably just not going to run Tyrion, and you're probably running Kevin and Roose. Because Roose
You're getting a lot of NCU interaction that Kevin doesn't have from Tyrion.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you're also not getting everything Kevin has. So I
Oh yeah,
don't know.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not-
You're
I'm not an
definitely
expert
playing
about-
Kevin if you're playing Kevin. If Kevin is good, you're playing Kevin, no doubt. So
it seems
can
like-
Tyrion come in and fix what Kevin can't do?
Not in a significant different manner.
I feel like you would. It just seems to me like if you're gonna have Tyrion in your B list anywhere, isn't it just a 1 point attachment to go find the other commander's cards, like, and potentially counter strategy off the dumb Golden Company swordsman you're gonna have to deal with or whatever else? Like, I don't know. It just seems like the opportunity cost for not taking Tyrion 1 pointer is
Tyrion makes the cut in the Kevin 8 list now.
okay. He's actually just in the Kevin list. Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
he's good enough to run in the Kevin list. And he's kind of good enough. Or like the Roose list we are seeing quite commonly, or the Roose list I'm seeing quite commonly with like Roose Red Cloaks style, is maybe actually now quite good. And I would like to add is in part due to a certain player making quite a big headway up the rankings. More recently, if people haven't been paying attention, is Wop with his Roose list has come up the rankings now. He's sitting 11th.
Oh wow!
But he's
Well
had
done,
a
Wop.
relatively good gain If you think of like where we're 384 now, in his last 20 games, he's had a significant run of success with a combination of Kevin and Roos.
Yeah, that's thanks to me.
It is partially in planks to you because you kept losing to him with Night's Watch. But like he runs Roos Red Cloaks, naked Red Cloaks, Bolton Flayed Men with a Glory Seeker in this case, and Gold Cloaks with Tyrion with Pycelle, Joffrey, Tommen. And his Kevin is the classic Kevin 7, which is the Crossbowman, Poor Fellows, Double Knights, Pycelle, Tywin, Varys. He runs 2 7s. I think the Kevin 8 is probably better, and I think he should run a Kevin 8 and a Roos 7. But the Roos 7 does look interesting, and I have been watching it, and I do think it has some play. So maybe this Roos 7 might be the second list.
And Tyrion in that adds another bit of control.
Yeah, this unit is a dick.
That control is, yeah. The amount of control in that list is
absolutely
huge.
Dickhead. You know, you're paying 6 points, but it goes, cool. Making an attack? Pretend you have 1 less rank. Awesome. Cool. Want to use an ability on order? No, you don't. Cool. By the way, I've got any card I want from my deck. Oh, and yes, you probably, because I've got Joffrey in the list, everything within short range of me also has -1 to its morale tests. So my Red Cloaks are even better, and my Flayed Men are better, and Roos is better. Like, I'm not going to say it's amazing, but it's not actually trash. The only problem with this is it doesn't have a range unit.
That is an example, though, of like a ton of synergy with what your list is trying to do for 6 points. Like it does. That is really nice.
But actually, what we should do is put Bronn in here in the Gold Cloaks, and that'd be fun.
Attachments.
See what people in chat are saying. Yeah. Go on.
Are attachments pound for pound better now than they were last patch?
I don't believe so. I think some are. Kurt says, with 1 point Tyrion, are people coming around to acknowledging Battle Plan as being a good order?
The only problem Battle Plan ever had was that it costs too much.
No. I think people are now coming around to the fact that counter strategy is really fucking good. And part of the reason why Mance Commander was so good for so long. Counter strategy is really good.
I'll say Battle Plan is significantly better if you have an NCU that draws you cards that you don't need.
That too. But also, Battle Plan...
Lannister has 2.
Battle Plan's not that good. Right?
It's not amazing. But it can set up amazing plays if you really need it.
Yeah, so Battle Plan is only good because it allows you to draw some of your cards at certain times. And you always have to kind of preemptively draw them. You have to draw them before they're useful, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're always trying to look ahead and guess ahead. Now that's not actually a big issue. You can do that. But Battle Plan is not going to search you 6 cards around a game, is it? Really? You're not going to throw 12 cards away looking for 6.
No, but it doesn't have to. It needs to. It needs to do.
But if you actually think of the value that gets you, yes, it gets you some card draw and some card search. And some cards are worth more in the early game than they are in the late game. And we talk about that. But like, counter strategy works 5 times a game probably because it's probably not going to work round 1. Let's face it.
It could work round 1, assuming you draw bad cards that you don't want in round 1. You can discard them to fill your deck.
Counter strategy doesn't.
No, counter strategy.
Oh, counter strategy. Yeah, sorry. My bad.
Counter strategy works. Okay, it's a 3+, so it doesn't work every time, right? But counter strategy works for you probably 5 rounds out of 5. That doesn't matter because the first round never really matters that much. Not for abilities and orders. It matters for people game plan wise.
But also, it's the threat of counter strategy.
Yeah, the threat of counter strategy is huge as well. Especially in a game with like Golden Comedy Swordsman. You don't have Golden Comedy Swordsman and you make them attack on the 2nd rank. What the fuck are they going to do? 5 dice on 3s. And now they've got no defensive order as well. You're just going to come and kill them.
The only time I've ever used Battle Plan was Awful War Machines. mainly because most of the cards in that were no good to me. I didn't want the attack reroll cards, etc. Take Black was pointless. But the Hone Enhancement on Overwatch, if you battle plan that, discard some of your cards and look for that, then it's worthwhile. But literally, it's the only time I've ever thought battle plan would be a good idea.
Yeah, for me it was approach. So Justin Massey and a Stannis list, like it was just about good enough to be worth 2 points, just being able to guarantee tactical approach on round 2.
And that's actually very important because specifically tactical approach has such a ridiculously hard trigger in the start of round. There are only 6 of them. And so you want to make sure you draw it and get to play it. And ideally you want it round 2 or round 3, right? Because round 2 is where the combat really starts. And if you don't have it by the start of round 3, where the combat is now getting decided, like the game is basically decided in rounds 3 and 4, although it starts off in round 2. Most games, if you're heavily winning, that's kind of decided on round 3. If you don't have tack approach by round 3, it's like really bad for you as a Baratheon player. So like, yeah, you want to draw it by round. At that point, you'll just draw it for round 2. So it matters a lot because the trigger's so bad on that card. The rest of the cards you're drawing just aren't that. Yeah.
I've been finding value in battle plan and Martells with Arya Houghton is pulling out Rising Temps. Just film in Stormcomber Exchange was really 1 point. It's been pretty useful for me, but
yeah, like getting Rising Temperature's okay, but then like.
Well, at that point, you had to discount him to 1 point to where it was good. That's why I think.
Oh, sure.
That Tyrion 1 point is very undercosted because battle plan is situationally very useful, but also he's got counter strategy, which is clearly counter strategy, right?
Counter strategy very
at one point, Tyrion attachment is he's a bargain. Like I can barely believe it. This 1 point.
Yeah.
So going back to the question, saying have attachments gotten better overall? I don't think so. I think they're moving in the right direction with attachments. Tyrion obviously very good. We just had a conversation about him. The free attachments who all aren't winning games, but the free attachment in Bolton's, like I like this design space. I think this design space is really good and interesting, and I actually think they should do it with more things. Like the worst thing about Bolton's, and this is going to sound mental. The worst thing about Bolton's is you have to pay a point for the Dreadfort Captain or the Bolton Flayer. If you could take one of those for free instead of Sour Allen, I think it would actually diversify list building in an interesting way. And I really mean that. Like the fact that they're not limited, they're not these free attachments you can take, just makes them a lot more difficult to include in lists or a lot more sour to include in lists.
Nice panda.
I know, right?
Don't encourage him.
Oh, he doesn't need my encouragement.
I've nattered on a lot here. A hell of a lot. Right?
It's good. It's good for the soul.
It is good for the my overall take on the balance patch is not that positive. Because I think the balance in general has improved. Like in a very generic sense, the balance has improved. We haven't talked about it today, and I'm not that interested in talking about it. But Night's Watch have come out of the balance patch feeling very strong. They are still a very good faction, and we won't go into why that is in particular, but like the changes to War Machines are now creating kind of like unpleasant game strategies and kind of gameplay loops that lead to Night's Watch just kind of dominating the floor with people. And it's not big, it's not like Night's Watch are unbeatable. I don't think they are. It's just that they can bring so many different things that good players get disparaged from having to play against those lists. And I'm not joking when I've seen Night's Watch run double Scorpion. I know Mark has done it. And in the first 2 rounds of the game, he's killed like 2 enemy units of cavalry in the opening 2 rounds before the game's really started. And at that point, your opponent's down like an 8-point and a 6-point cavalry, like 14 points. And they haven't even got their infantry units engaged yet. Like, the game's over. game is over.
Yeah.
That's not fun. Like, it just isn't. What one player there is just not enjoying themselves. There's nothing they can do. They can't even
admit I did not enjoy that game.
Yeah.
Why would I?
There was no play. You just took zones, shot, activated shot, got some hits, played the cards that allowed you to hit more, used your cards that made you reroll to hit more, and your opponent died, and you kind of went at the end of it, cool. I just rolled some dice. My opponent didn't really get to roll many dice. My opponent could do nothing about their positioning to make it harder. They could do nothing about token play, realistically, because I don't interact with that. They couldn't really even stop me doing the board in the order I did the board in, because that's just, I went first, or I went second. That's just the order we take the board in. So, like, yeah, my opponent just took a list.
And the social interaction wasn't there.
Yeah. It's almost like your opponent didn't need to be at the other side of the board.
No, it's similar, like I said at the time, to the Red Cloak panic list. If you roll well, you win. If your opponent rolls bad, if your opponent rolls bad, you win. If your opponent rolls well, you lose. And it's the same Scorpions. If you roll well, you win. Or War Machines, rather. If you roll well, you win. If you roll poorly, you lose.
At least against a Red Cloak list, you can position, because they only have long range.
Yep.
That's not true of War Machine. Now,
Scorpions is, to an extent.
Doesn't make a significant difference.
Well, so sorry to put like a vaguely more positive spin on that. Knowing that in the gameplay itself, there's very little interaction with them. What is the best way at list building to address this problem to the extent that you can? Various factions, like if there's any just generic advice that's good for dealing with it.
That's a hard question to answer.
It's very hard.
Right, I know. Of course it is.
Yeah,
but
I actually don't.
That's kind of
the problem. Is I don't think there is an answer.
Okay.
Like I actually think
an answer.
Your best opportunity is just to run good builds and find a way of either sustaining through, doing like remote damage back in the hopes to kill them, or play in a way that allows you to not have to worry about them too much, because although they're going to hurt you, have a list that can manage. Or alternatively, catch them.
I've seen this approach, Mickey. Just don't play against them.
That's not an option that a competitive player should ever realistically consider.
So it's actually quite funny because I've been thinking a lot recently about the whole, how the hell do we counter Night's Watch, and particularly through the lens of Lannister. I think Marky said something very interesting to me this morning, which is double crossbows. And I just had a game right now, that's why I've been gone for the past hour, against Othel War Machines with a double crossbow build. Not Bronn, but still Kevin double crossbow with Tyrion and a Tywin bomb. And I won. Now, sure, I won because of I passed the 7+ morale test on the very last activation of the 6th round of the game. But that was a win, and that's the first. And that's the first win I've had against Night's Watch since the patch.
Was that against the 2 NCU version?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying it was against a good list, but it is technically it had no Corrin. But technically, it can happen.
Dice game. Like, there's nothing in this game you just automatically lose to, and I think that's been true for some time. I think it was true last patch. I do believe that. I just don't know if would your double crossbowman list, yeah, KJ?
Mm-hmm.
Would you have wanted that list if your opponent played Cotter Pike aggressive Golden Company swordsman, shove them down your throat?
I honestly think it's not terrible.
Okay.
Doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean it's a good matchup, but it's a lot of remote shooting. Tywin can just shut down Golden Company when he really wants to.
Oh God, your opponent runs double vets.
Exactly. And again, super friendly player. Not going to talk anything bad at all. But yeah, it wasn't necessarily a good list.
Veterans still aren't good. I don't think anyway.
No, I think veterans are still one of the worst. I think they've probably gotten even worse.
I'm literally going to show him up on stream because shit, he's not here anymore. at least he's not on here right now. Last game that Carlo played against the worst player in our club, John, who's a lovely guy, but he's the guy who just kills whales every now and then. And he ran a unit of veterans with Offal, and he lost.
Yeah.
And
Because veterans shit. Veterans are just bad.
Good.
Yeah, just terrible. But yeah, we that's actually an interesting question. Not sure if you guys were talking about this topic earlier, but we were playing, which in the way that I think is the correct way, even though it pisses me off, which is the if you take the wounds from if you
Yeah.
No, I'm going to mention it. We can then choose to ignore the topic, but for anyone listening who might not be aware of this interesting little ruling, basically, if the stone thrower misses, you take the panic test at a -2 with +1 wound, and if you take the wounds from that, you then take a panic test from the attack, because the panic, the super panic you take, is not a consequence of missing. It's a, if you roll hits, you take damage. If you don't roll hits, you take a panic test. That's the wound part of the attack. And then you take a panic test at the end of the attack.
Okay, well, speaking to anyone who will be attending the event that I'm TOing in a couple of weeks here in Calgary, nope, that's not going to be the way that works.
Which is fair. Like, the way that the US Nationals has ruled it, US Nationals has said that you do take 2 panic tests. However, you take the automatic panic test of being attacked, of which your opponent didn't cause wounds. So you pass the first panic. So you take a panic, but it's an auto pass. Then you take the -2 +1 panic. The problem is that actually all of these rulings do predicate around the alternative problem, which is you do actually take 2 panic tests. So if you've got Dauntless or anything that restores wounds or interacts with panic tests, there are 2 instances. So therefore, you would count as, if you do pass the -2 +1, you'd actually pass 2 panic tests. Or, fail 1, pass 1. If you've got Dauntless, that would mean a heal of 2. If you've got Dauntless and the House Tully Cavaliers like Rally Banner, that would mean potentially healing 2 from them. And if you've got Dauntless and that would mean healing 4. Which is kind of nuts.
Okay.
What's even more?
I mean, like, okay, I don't see that as a problem. Like this.
I don't, but the problem is that makes the War Machine worse, because what you've now introduced to the game is something that is not interactive for the person using it, and if it hits, it just does a load of damage. And it's not interactive for the person defending against it in that way, but it's also not interactive for the opponent using it, because if it misses and you just pass both panics, it just undoes nearly all of the damage it's just done. So it's like, I'm not saying that it's like unpleasant or it's bad, but what I'm saying is it's only a feels bad. Either it hits and you feel like shit, or you miss and you feel like shit. It's just the player who feels like shit changes. It's never a good thing.
I think what's going to be particularly interesting from my side is really to see how the community responds to it, because again, rules as written, I truly do believe that you would take the super panic test and then a regular panic test. And again, I'm not an Ice Witch player. I'm not happy about that at all, but I want to play rules as written. That being said, if US Nats, UK Nats, Polish Nats all go in and say, no, we're not going to do it, then I'm not going to do it in casual games, because I want to play the meta. And if, as a community, unofficially, we start deciding to change a rule, or interpret a rule in a very particular way, that's actually quite interesting.
It is, but it's also dangerous.
What's 100% dangerous, I completely agree. Not as dangerous as a stone thrower lockmaking a rock in your head, though.
This sounds like one of those situations where you need to write a bunch of essays at each other on Discord rather than argue about it during the podcast.
Or both. No, the problem with making any ruling, it's actually very simple. The ruling may or may not be beneficial, and the ruling probably is a beneficial one. For people's play and enjoyment of the game, the ruling may be positive. But actually, the much, much better ruling, in my opinion, is that the -2 +1 replaces the normal panic test, and you don't count as automatic passing. It's a nice and simple ruling, and it just means.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It means that there aren't these double panic tests going on either, because I don't think double panic testing makes realistically any sense. Why would you panic twice from the same thing? That, you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, in just the game mechanics have never worked that way. So that doesn't really make any sense to me. So, it's just one panic test would make a lot more sense, and that means that you're not changing. With the double panic test, you're actually changing the value of those panic-based rulings and those panic-based like buffs quite significantly. Whereas if it's single panic test, it actually doesn't change the way those buffs work, and they're still like equivalent. So it's like neither or is the best answer. But yeah, it depends on the ruling, and the problem is that every ruling, we've got 3 or 4 different rulings just in the people in this chat alone, and there are currently 10 people outside of myself in this chat, and we've already got 3 or 4 different rulings between us 10. Now I can't imagine there being a significant number more than that, but like, how many more rulings do we have to get for, I don't know, Tybalt can say already claimed zone or an already occupied zone. How many more rulings do we get where we have to start going, you know, this resolves before this, or, you know, we've already got a ruling I disagree with in US Nationals, which says that you're meant to declare targets before resolving the effect of anything. And the US Nationals ruling is you declare targets at the point of declaring the effect. So you would now have to say, I am playing predictable maneuvers, I'm targeting your 2 units and this unit. Or, that's not very good, right? But how about this? I am declaring adaptive planning as a neutral player. Okay, at the start of my turn, I'll declare Corrin, and when you declared adaptive planning, you named a bunch of units, by the way. You have to tell them all the units before knowing what the opponent's doing, and then the opponent says, well, I'll declare Corrin, and I'll target this unit, and your opponent goes, I'd like to Flayed Man Has No Secrets, and you say, well, you can't, because the tokens that you want to a Flayed Man Has No Secrets, my Corrin, to delay it 1 turn, aren't on the board yet from adaptive planning. So by the time that you can counter it, after the targeting stage of my ability, it's too late. So it made an active player's Flayed Man Has No Secrets a little worse. It makes active players all of those abilities worse. Because you have to declare where the ability is being used on declaration, not on resolving, which is the US ruling. And I disagree with that completely. That's the ruling that's being made at US.
Well, I mean, not to pile on, but Winter is Coming and Set for Charge contradict that in the same document for that event. So, you know.
I know. But, like, this is the problem. The rule set isn't strong enough. So you are going to get rulings that actually contradict each other, and more importantly, are contradictory with the way that other people play the game. And it's becoming common across lots of different rulings, because there doesn't need to be a huge number of rulings, but there does need to be some important ones for a lot of these interactions, certainly high-level play. And I don't mind if a TO makes a decision. Right? I genuinely don't mind if a TO makes a decision and just sticks with it. But there has to be consistency. Because the problem is that you go to one event and it's different, to a different event and you go to a different. I'm attending US Nationals and a couple of weeks later LGT, and I expect to play both tournaments under a different set of answers to questions. And they're 2 national tournaments, and there'll be different rulings. Now, will they make a big difference? Probably not. But like, we shouldn't be in a state of the game where we play in national events and you play under different rules. Like, you know, for these kind of things. That's why the community FAQ is being kind of published. I know it took a bit of a hit because basically as soon as we heard there was a patch on the horizon, which was, you know, 2 or 3 months ago, people started talking about that. And it kind of came with, right, well, we don't really want to answer the rest of the questions, or there aren't any real questions left to answer. We just need to kind of like put it out there. But with the patch on the horizon, it meant that the rules are going to change. So some of the stuff in the community FAQ has had to come out since the patch because it's no longer relevant or right. But as a result, we now have to rewrite a bunch of other rulings. So yeah, that will be changing in the coming kind of days. And myself and someone else are putting that document together and hoping to get it out in the next kind of couple of weeks. A little bit of an update on the community FAQ. Is that going to be a solution? No. Do people necessarily need to follow it? No. People may or may not choose to follow it.
If people that are not unified in a region, unified under one single TO or group of TOs, and are having to, adjudicate games against each other, like we need that. So it's a good thing. It's going to come out.
Yeah, it's nearly finished. FAQ makes the game more confusing, says Evil Sponge. Yes. So yeah, that's where we stand with that. We've gone nearly 3 hours. Jesus Christ. Maybe inviting random guests is the best way to do this. Who do we have
Shocking
today?
that.
Random bunch of nice people that I kind of don't know that well, or do know quite well.
I was about to say, you almost had me there.
All right. So I appreciate everyone joining in. Now let's have a look at upcoming tournaments, because we will start to wind the stream down. What have we got? We've got the TTS tournament still ongoing. Some players who are not very good dropped out of that. They decided that they couldn't play in it anymore because they didn't like the lists that they chose to put in, which is, bad list building from bad players like Isaac.
Oof.
I joke. No. Mark's still going 3 for 3, beating WOP earlier today, was it? Yeah, it was earlier today. Beat WOP in a very close game. Literally came down to the last thing in the game, pretty much. Correspond also doing quite well with Martell's. Good to see that Johannes, I know he was watching earlier, has been doing well. WOP's up there as well, but low gain as well. Who else have we got in contention? Big Guy getting he already had a loss, but he picked up a win earlier today, I think, as well, against Bronn the Bodybuilder. Greyjoy into Free Folk. Shout to Bill. Bill's a nice guy. People don't know Big Guy. It's Corellian. He's one of the main people who works on the TTS mod. Corellian/Big Guy. Really nice guy. We've got other people in contention. We've got Susta with his Baratheons, Brett with Night's Watch. We've got Matt. I'm going 2 for 2 with his Baratheons. Well done, Matt. Played on him with the TTS team. I'm glad that he's getting some wins in with Baratheons. Chris F&M with his double Great John Umber. Lol. Ilya's still up there with Free Folk. We've got James Williamson, relatively new player to TTS Gaming, and he's doing quite well with Martell. Got Lark's up there with Greyjoys. We've got Bunker up there with Free Folk. And then we're obviously going into the 1 loss already. But yeah, still a lot to play for in that event. Range of factions being represented. What's actually interesting is there now is not an undefeated Lannister player in the event. Of all factions, Lannisters are the one that aren't defeated, have now gone defeated or not undefeated. Which is interesting. Other factions to pick up losses. I mean, yeah, I think Targs are out of it, right?
Look at win rate for Lannisters there.
I will go back and have a look at it, yeah.
I think that was all Isaac, to be honest.
Targs are out of it.
Oh my god.
Neutrals weren't in it, I guess. Neutrals, Biscuit's running them. Yeah, so I mean, what's the Lannister win rate? Lannister win rate is 23%.
Ooh.
Nice.
Probably just because people are running Pycelle. He's so bad.
Yeah, Pycelle is just bad.
It's just terrible.
And Kevin, clearly, because he's the most represented commander in the event.
Is Kevin the worst win rate commander? Well, obviously, if you ignore all the ones that play like 1 game. Gregor Clegane is actually the worst, or maybe even the High Sparrow at 3 games, 0% win rate. If you only played 1 game and only lost 0, it's just 1 game. 2 games.
Who would run a High Sparrow in a tournament like this?
High Sparrow and Gregor are doing really badly.
Don't look at me.
9. There's 9. Okay, so 9 games there from non-Kevin. With. So there are only 4 Kevin games, I'm guessing, and that might not even be true. We'll get there. There are 4 Kevin games, and they've only of those 9 other games they've lost or only won 1. Yeah, there are 7. Of course, it's mirrors. Of course, aren't.
Wow.
Kevin has 7. Wow. Did Kevin lose a mirror?
Maybe the Kevin meta is overrated. Overhyped.
Maybe. So Kevin did lose a mirror, but he was against another Kevin, so it doesn't really count. So Kevin was always going to lose. Kevin won a mirror against the High Sparrow. And a Joffrey
What's
loss.
that like?
Having a look. Kevin beat a... Is that a win? That might actually be a loss. Yeah, it's a loss to Drogo. Sadness. And then a Roose. Yeah, so a Roose beat Gregor. So I need to find the other Lannister win. Gregor lost to Stark. Kevin beat
Victorian there.
Gregor lost to Night's Watch. Gregor beat Drogo. So Gregor didn't beat a Kevin Lannister list. Good. So the Kevins have beaten, or Lannisters have beaten Targaryens, and then only Kevin has beaten the other stuff. Amazing. Wow, Lannister's not doing well. Who else is actually doing quite well? I think Night's Watch are doing quite alright, aren't they? Like, they're doing possibly fine. Yeah, Cotter Pike has a 1-for-1. Night's Watch at 78% win rate. Martell's at 73. That's good to see. That's actually very impressive. Baratheon's at 58. Stark's 57. Neutral's 50. They've only played 2 games. Revok at 46. 45 for Greyjoys. Bolton's not winning a game. Sadness.
That very sad Bolton statistic.
Bolton's are not.
With 3 games, they've only got 1 player picking them in the first place, right?
Yeah, and yeah, he did. He played them in 1 game and lost and resigned and retired. I actually saw that game. He resigned on like round 2. Yeah, it wasn't a game Ilya had beaten him like round 2. It was game over.
Yeah, that's Bolton's for you.
2 victory points for Ilya, and both of them were kills in round 2. Yeah. So and that's Tom Tyler, man. You know. Yeah. Not a great time, but anyway, check that out if you do want to check it out. It is there available, and it is throwing out some interesting stuff. Certainly, Night's Watch being strong, Lannisters not being as strong as we thought. What have we got coming up then? We have got the Battle at Castle Horse, which is a small event in Toledo, Ohio, this week. Wednesday. Ah, Wednesday. Hey, good luck with that. I don't even know who's in it. I'm going to check it out. Let's see if there's any players I know. Toledo area. Oh, Severin. I actually do know some of these players. Lando Jackson and Severin. I've seen them for their names I recognise. Oh, well, I hope that event goes really well, guys. We've got an event this Wednesday through till a while, which looks like a league in Gdansk area of Poland. So, Polish league. How many players have they actually got for that? If they've signed up. 0 so far. How many on the waiting list? Oh, wow! That's a nice number of waiting lists. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 on the waiting list. So nice little 17-player league there. There's also a TTS league for the French starting up on Friday. Relatively small event there. Conflict of Elements. This is in Germany, in Karlsruhe, in Germany. Probably butchered the pronunciation of that this weekend. We've also got the Slaughterhouse tournament in episode 1, First Blood, in Hamburg in Deutschland, and I believe that this is the one run by An1 and 1-8 on behalf of Sunday Slaughter in Germany. So how many players have they got? They've got 1, 2. Oh god, 17. So 13. Oh, take away 4. Oh, 13. Yeah, that's right. I think.
Mathematics.
Do this, should I? City of the Cross tournament in Stavropol in Russia. Hope that goes well. Scepter the New Gods in St. Petersburg, Florida, USA, with 0-1-6 potential maximum players. Not 16. 1-6. Magic Stronghold Quarterly in Kingsway, Vancouver, Canada. Hope that one goes well. Is that the one you're running, Crypt?
No, that's 1 province over from me.
That's 1 province over. Damn. We've got the Ludus Formanatos September event. So this is the Ludus Formanatos guys. If you've ever seen them before, I butchered their name again. Oh, they don't have a nice banner this time. The Ludus Formanatos are a very common group that do a lot of events, usually in Spain. Check that out as well. 16 players. We drink and play things in Hanover, Deutschland. This Sunday. We've also got the Torneo Mensual War Lotus in Granada, Spain. I have no idea what that means. But it's the tornado of menstrual war lotuses. Enjoy. Not menstrual. Not menstrual war lotuses. That would be weird.
That's the next weekend.
Next week. Oh, that's next. Yeah, it's this weekend.
Yeah, it's not the correct time of the month for that.
We've got a Bolter event at Starczy Zloczni Meczki. I've butchered that one again. Have we got any native Polish speakers here?
Yes, you have.
Yes! Can you pronounce that for me?
Starcie złotych mieczy.
Starczy Złotej Miecze.
That was shit.
Almost.
Almost. They said almost. I'll take that. Cool. I'm not a good. I've never spoken Polish. That's in Wrocław in Poland. Nice 20-player event there potentially. Chance of Bunkers Clash of Members this weekend. I assume that you're going to the Clash of Members event this weekend, Mark.
I'm considering it. There's 8 players at the moment signed up for it, but not on stats.
Cool. That's awesome. Nice. It's always good to see little monthly events keep running and doing well. And technically it's next week, but we'll mention it. We've got, because this is just amazing, A Song of Ice and Fire, Lords of the North, TTS, Quebec, Canada 23? Lords of the North, Quebec, Canada, I'm guessing that's what that means. Song of Ice and Fire,
I mean,
Lords of the North, TTS, Quebec, Canada 2023. It's got
Yep.
some Canadian
That's a
players.
mouthful right there.
Let's hope that initializes.
I hope that goes really well. You said your event, Crip, was this weekend, right? Or is it next weekend?
no. It's September 23rd at the
Oh.
Ogre's Den in Calgary, Alberta.
That doesn't count. That's ages away. But I'll go and find it in the list.
Yeah, I know, but I'm on the show today, so I'm going to talk about it.
Okay, so it's 20. Can't find it. It's where you actually say
Well,
it's not.
well,
actually
you know
aware,
what?
right?
My
War in the
birthday,
West. You just
my
scroll.
birthday is in half a year, and I'm on the show today, so I'm going to talk about it.
Look
Shut
forward to it.
That's awesome. Good luck with running the event as well as usual. This month we have the French National Championship happening next weekend. Okay?
Holy shit.
The French National Championship is next weekend. It's got 50 players. It will have more because they have a relatively large waiting list. So if you're looking to attend the French Nationals, I don't think there are any English players this year, unfortunately, and we do expect some people to sign up here later on. So hopefully French Nationals goes really well. Brilliant last year. Hope it goes well again this year. Credit to the Barretio guys and everyone else running them. I obviously wish you best of luck with the event. Just enjoy yourselves. It'll be amazing. We also have, so that's next weekend, okay? The weekend after that is the CMON Expo, which I will be attending, and also the US National Championships, which is not on stats currently, but the US National Championships this year is being run on stats. So we have got French National Championship
Air horn.
next weekend. Well, not this weekend, but like the weekend after. We've got the US Nats the week after that. The week after that, on the 23rd, I think is Hungarian Nationals. I knew there was another national event, but it is on the grand scheme of things, it is probably one of the smaller ones, and also War in the West if you're in Canada. And the weekend after that is LGT. So you have got nothing this weekend. There's nothing crazy. There's a few tournaments going on. There's no national events. But then you've got, in order, French Nationals, US Nationals, Hungarian Nationals, UK Nationals. Week after week. Who is looking
Isn't
forward?
Polish right afterwards?
And Polish is, I believe, the week after that, yeah.
And Polish is looking busy.
So Polish is going to be the big one, right? Polish is looking massive.
Yeah,
all of the means all of the asterisks next to various ELO numbers and whatnot are going to go away by the end of this month for sure.
100%. I mean, even if I don't even believe there are asterisks next to most of these numbers, but yeah, Polish Nationals.
Humoring people that say that, yes.
Yeah, Polish Nationals is huge. For those who don't know, Polish Nationals has 145 people signed up on stats already.
Holy shit.
Holy moly!
Yeah. And it is 1.5 month in the future.
Yeah.
So.
Oh my.
That's a gargantuan
That is
waiting list.
unreal.
They have a waiting
do
list of
you-
about 40 to 50 players.
Do you like rent out a town to play that in? Or like,
But
I mean, this is 40k numbers.
this is
Yeah,
genuinely
this is a big event.
This is genuinely the most exciting event there is this calendar year. 100%. Now, this is obviously late October when this is actually running. 23rd of October. I think 22nd, 23rd. I can't remember. Make sure I get the dates right. It is the 21st, 22nd. Sorry, of October when this is actually running. But this is the largest A Song of Ice and Fire event ever. As it stands, it's going to be the largest A Song of Ice and Fire event ever. It has countries represented from Poland, Spain, Greece, Finland, Hungary, Sweden, the UK. That's 7, I think. We've also got. Don't have them. I thought there was some Italians going, but maybe I was wrong.
Did you miss the Dutch then?
Are there any Dutch going at the moment?
Yeah, Spanish, German.
Oh yeah, no, we've got German. Germany
Spanish
as
underneath
well.
him.
And I don't think there's a Dutch at the moment, but there might be some on the waiting list. More Germans on the waiting list. Portuguese on the waiting list. That'd be amazing. And this random guy who's from, I think this is Swaziland. No, Uganda. That's the Ugandan flag.
All right. Yeah.
I really hope he makes it, just because I want to. I don't.
oh,
believe
that's
it.
metal.
I don't even know if he's from Uganda, and if he is, that's even more amazing. But yeah, so like 8 countries already represented in the event. Some sending lots of players, some sending not many. So I think in the UK we've got bring back to him Matt Lloyd from Scotland is going along with his mate Peter Smith, also from Scotland. So thumbs up there. Love to see that. We've got Orgmo going from the UK. I know plays down where Isaac plays, similar kind of region to him. And we've also got Marky Mark heading down with part-time villain, another player from Scotland, and Jacob. So Jacob Glace, obviously very strong UK player. So 2 of the strongest UK players, and some other players as well. 2 of the second tier UK players, I should say. Obviously tons of Polish people. You've got a mix of different Spanish individuals, some of which we've not seen attending international events, like Yuri, Mapash. Mapash actually rings a bell. Palermo has been to internationals before, I believe. We've also got Kosovo. He has been as well, I believe. Mr. Teacher, new one to me. Mordin Solis, Carlos, he's going across, which is good to see. Seeing Ristas, doesn't ring a bell. Nechios, he rings a bell for online chats. Mikel's going. Minotaurus, another strong player from over there. We've got Greek players. It's great to see finish those making it over. That's good to see. We've got Kaluja, Timu, who's been on the show before. Good luck to Timu. Hope he does well. We've got, let's see who else we've got. A bunch of Swedes. It's a big Swede group, including WOP. Good to see WOP playing internationally as well. I'm really glad to see that. Kudos there. What else have we got? I think that's it. I think I was right in saying this. I think he might be on the waiting list then. Oh, maybe he couldn't make it. I thought Johannes was going to be going along. So Johannes is coming to UK Nationals this year. That's Forest Pond on stats. But yeah, massive event. 140 players. They are easily going to hit capacity at 160. I have no doubt. Absolutely hyped. I couldn't make it this year. Weddings and already going to the US and committing over there makes this pretty unattainable. But I really hope this event goes really well. I expect it to be the highlight event of the year. I think this is going to be the biggest event of A Song of Ice and Fire ever had, and I think it's going to be the most impressive showing and display of tournament ever seen in A Song of Ice and Fire. I'm jealous. Absolutely amazing, fantastic.
As far as I know, if it's not official, okay? If all the places are taken, I believe the War Factory will try to extend the list, so they will try to fit like 20 more people to
20.
To like 20. Yeah, because it's whole like the whole place is rented especially for this event, and the hotel like we have War Factory got the I don't know how to say it. Give me a second.
It's okay. I understand. I think I've seen the venue and things like that, so I think I think this could be the first event that has a real good chance of reaching 200 players.
If they fit that many people, I guess the War Factory will allow that.
And I'm going to throw it out there. If this doesn't reach 200 players this year, I believe it can next year. Assuming the game is still alive. Which is a big assumption.
I don't know if it's that big of an assumption. That's a discussion for another time.
But I do genuinely believe the game could hit 200 players at Polish Nationals.
Yeah, if there is enough space, it definitely can.
And that's huge. So huge, so important, and fantastic to see in the game.
What was the biggest event?
LGT, last year's LGT at about 108, I think? 109, I think it was.
Okay.
Hang on, I'll have a look.
I suppose a bit more than that.
It's very quick and easy for me to check LGT, because I just have to go into play a tournament. Right here. So we had, in the end, 116.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 116 players at the LGT. So 140 is like, it's beaten LGT levels. 160 would be amazing. 100 and like 200 would be like phenomenal. But yeah. I will at this point start to close down the show with two more things to go through. First of all, by request, I will put up this image here. That one to here. So this is the LGT. A quick reminder that tickets still are on sale for the LGT. 29th of September to the 1st of October at Lee Valley Athletics Centre in London. It's not actually in London, it's kind of on the outskirts, which does make it a little bit easier and cheaper in terms of rentals, in terms of like hotels and stuff. But do try and get yourselves along, especially if you're in the UK. You want to play in a tournament which is looking to be hopefully a good attended or well attended tournament. Okay, obviously last year's huge success of running at the time, biggest The Song of Ice and Fire event ever held. Do attend this year's UK GT. It should be great fun. We've also got the last segment of today, which is by far the most important segment of any given day. Does anybody know what this segment is?
We're going to raid paint jobs.
We're going to raid paint jobs. We're going to raid some paint jobs.
I am so ready for this.
We are rating community paint jobs. Now, first of all, this particular lot of stuff has been painted by personal friend of the channel, and general friend of the community, Lockerbury, as you can tell from the rulers that say Lockerbury. First of all, before we get onto the paint jobs, what do you think of those?
I like them. I like the cloaks.
Bright version of Greyjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're usually
quite
drab,
out.
dark water and everything, but these are... It's a beach day for the Greyjoys.
Yeah.
It's great. 0 out of 10.
0 out of 10. It's great.
It's great. 0 out of 10.
It's a solid, shiny 0.
I think, although it's a good paint job, but the basing really does bring out a good paint job.
Oh yeah.
The basing actually makes the model, and the basing on that is very, very good.
The barrels on the drowned men. That's a nice touch.
The basing.
I have only one question.
Yeah?
Where is the thumb on this photo?
That's a good question. Where is the thumb? 0 for thumbs. Right.
yeah.
No
yeah,
fun.
I mean, for me, the light basing obviously means that the palette you talked about there being quite bright, then the bright basing, because you see like a darker sand, like a browner sand typically, or a darker sand, and darker waves does like dull the whole tray down, and the brighter base lifts the whole tray up. So yeah, I do agree with what you guys have said wholeheartedly. The barrels here mentioned on the drowned men, I do agree. I think the barrels are really nice. I love the water effect on the barrels as well. I really like that unit of drowned men. Like, I really do.
It's really beautiful.
Look great.
Yeah.
Great.
The painting is a solid 0, but it's the basing that takes it from a solid 0 to a slightly, almost magical, luminescent, slightly transparent 0.
Yeah.
It's quite special.
Well, I mean, got an international audience here, so I'd say I'd give it a nil point.
No loyalty.
I love it. I'm going to do this more often. Right.
It's a shame that he didn't fill out the gap between the model and the base for the round men.
Yeah. Well, I
Like-
guess it means that it could be used by another solo, right? But
But
Yeah.
I mean, hey, you don't know that there isn't going to be a cavalry attachment one day which says if you put 2 of these units in the back of your tray,
all right,
if you don't do your cav maneuver, you get gang up and +2 attack dice.
I see that I made a stupid comment.
Correct. Idiot.
I see you understand your stupid comment. So here we've got Eric, and we've got Wendy, of course, and Aaron, the most dampest of hair, with the new and improved, of course, Silence Men.
Except Mickey said.
Except, yeah, I know, right? These Silence Men, he's opted for grey, like, overcloak, in the kind of, like, cowl is the right word, isn't it? He's gone for the green
Did you say
cowl.
grey?
Yeah,
Grey?
he said
It's-
grey, but he
is
meant
that grey?
green.
Yes,
green.
grey. I do apologise.
That is the greenest green I've seen in my entire life.
It's not a grey, I tell you that. It's definitely green. I think they look cool. It's a bit different.
Difference, nice.
I think it's true though. If I can't paint for crap, but I do put more effort into my basing, and it really does, as Isaac said, a bad paint job with good basing. Not saying this is a bad paint job because it's not, but a bad paint job with good basing can make a big difference.
Yeah.
Which is what I hope and pray for.
I actually do have a piece of advice for Lockerbie. This is a genuine piece of advice, Lockerbie, if you're watching this. Okay?
More
Your
rocks.
bases are really good. Do yourself a favour and go around the edge with a black brush, and just clean up, because I can see like the scuff marks in the corner.
Oh,
like the-
yeah.
Yeah. I didn't notice it until just now when you said the basing. It's not
Drown men as well.
Yeah, the drowned men as well. Always you can see like where the spray paint and things was done. Just go through and either spray paint them black or like just black paint them and then varnish the board, like the edges so it locks in. Spray matte varnish does the job perfectly for the bases. And it just locks the bases in. It doesn't make a big difference, but it just cleans them up and makes them look like a finished piece.
That's
No,
just a
I mean,
testament to
it-
how far good basing will get you that I didn't notice that.
Oh, okay.
And
So,
so
I mean,
just
we were
confirm
all
what-
memeing about zeros, so I didn't say it. But yeah, no, I wanted to in the first picture. Like you,
all
that
right.
you gotta
Mr. I
if you
know
want
it all.
if you want to make yeah, no, it's the bases and faces make miniatures aces, I think is the ancient saying, right? So you want to make sure that everything looks tidy on the base, and that if you're painting the face and the eyes, make sure they point the same direction, and you're gonna be in a pretty good place.
And that's why I'm based and my face is amazing, because that's why my partner thinks my miniature looks good. I'll let you work that one out. Right, okay.
That cut out.
And
for
so
me,
Lockerbie,
I-
basically just to confirm what Mick just said, so you can actually quote him on this. He said the best way to fix your miniatures is to go over and spray them black one more time, and then just do it all over again.
Just the bases. Isaac's such a troll. And here we go.
I would never troll. The Martel chat can confirm that.
The full retinue, the full kind of selection stuff he's painted up there, presented quite nicely. They do look good. They do look really good. I do like them. We've then got a random selection of other photos, such as this photo here, where it's the same things from a different angle, or this
Ooh.
photo here, in a slightly different orientation of the same things. Alternatively, get this: the same things
No.
from above.
Oh.
That's too much.
Well,
That's too much.
we're nothing if not thorough.
But I think the takeaway from that, lighting is very important.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, the second batch of photos needs to be better lit. I'll just the first ones look great. The light makes these models look objectively worse.
They look worse because of the lighting, not because they actually are worse.
Yeah, not because they are worse. I'm saying the lighting is hurting your paint.
So an optical illusion from the front. Once you get from the back, you realize they're actually still just in primer.
Yep, they're just cardboard. they're not even 3D models.
They're just cardboard printouts.
Yeah,
Smoke and mirrors, boys. Smoke and mirrors.
that good at painting them to make them look 3D. So yeah, a
That's why
solid
it's
set of
so many
zeros.
pictures.
Solid set of zeros. And randomly, he also showed me this.
Took me a second to figure out what that was, but yes, that does.
yeah. I think our minds went somewhere. Yeah.
Yep, took everyone a minute to work out what they were.
Thank you, Lockerbie, for giving us a doorway into your mind.
Yeah.
Doordagen.
Yeah, Greyjoy activation banners spray painted, I'm guessing, or maybe painted gold. To obviously
Lovely
go with
tentacles
the,
there.
Yeah, I'll let people's imagination run wild. So Lockerbie, thank you very much for your list there. Thank you very much for your thumb. I'm giving your list and your army and your overall paint job there a solid 0 with a 0.0 if you finish off the base with some black.
Can we make a new rating that's just a Carlo out of 10?
1 Carlo out of 10, 0 Carlos out of 10. Is that what you're saying?
1 Cthulhu.
No, we're saying Carl 0.
Ah, there it is. There it is.
Oh, okay.
And if you're really good, you get Z4 instead. Yeah. No, I appreciate that, Lockerbie. Thanks for sending those in. And I think everyone in chat here has enjoyed watching those as well. Chat, pictures, Lockerbie's Caribbean Greyjoys, says Nachtalb. You really think the game is dying, says Hero Look. I don't think so, Hero Look. I think it is growing, but I am... Nachtalb gets it right. Mickey's an old man who's played too many games. Don't listen to him. That's true. And then Nachtalb also says something about plugs and Cthulhu fetishes. Okay, fantastic. And with that, guys, we'll end the episode here. Thank you very much for my random assortment of guests that's joined me this evening.
Anytime.
We've still got Ross, we've still got Crohn's Crypt, we've still got Edgehopper joined us, we've got Mark, we've got Isaac, we've got Reek, we've got Joker still here, we've got a huge section of different people from across the spectrum. Really enjoyed having you here. We'll do this again one time. And yeah, apart from that, guys, you guys can all try and say goodbye at the same time. This isn't going to work. I'm going to say goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
See you next week.
Bye. I'll see you with the Martell Knights.
And now I wish that this wasn't. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Okay. There's too many. Anyone see my mammoth? Stubby.